How do you transform a cold, cavernous church into a futuristic house? Or turn dilapidated old barns into stylish family homes? From industrial wonders to ancient windmills, this series follows brave homeowners.
The original wall has come away from the chapel.
As they take on the seemingly impossible challenges
You're absolutely barreling down.
of transforming historic structures never built to be lived in. We explore the ancient mastercrafts and ingenious modern design it takes to build an impossible house.
It's another bit of history saved.
In this episode,
What have you done now?
this young, ambitious couple
I've got to get it unravelled. As soon as I saw the barn, that was it. I fell in love with it.
battle brittle brickwork
The barn's walls are actually bowing out. This could collapse.
and perfect artisan skills.
It's definitely a moment. You should be really proud of.
Yeah.
To transform this dilapidated cattle barn all by themselves into a sustainable family home.
We want the whole property to be quite unusual, quite quirky, and a representation of us, really, as well.
Yeah.
To a tight deadline for a very special occasion. In Staffordshire, stonemason George Plant and his fiancée Sarah McGregor, a family support worker, are gearing up to take on the building project of a lifetime. With help from their parents, George and Sarah have just bought this 5-acre plot of land in the village of Draycott in the Moors, which they plan to turn into a small holding.
I've always wanted animals and I've always wanted land. I prefer to be outside than inside.
We've got some chickens already. We'd like some sheep, some goats, some pigs, anything really. I'd love a donkey, but they are really quite loud.
At the heart of their new farm will be a unique property. They plan to transform this run-down 200-year-old cattle barn into a modern and comfy 4-bedroom family home. It will be George and Sarah's first home together.
As soon as I saw the barn, that was it. I fell in love with it and I knew the potential it got, and I was like, come on, right, we're having this.
I'm really excited. George knows a lot more about how the building is going to look, how it's been designed, whereas I'm more interior, and I'm really looking forward to designing the inside of the property. We already class this as our home.
During the 18th century, cattle farming became big business in the Staffordshire countryside. Cattle barns were built to cope with the rising demand for dairy as the Industrial Revolution took off, and people flocked to the region looking for work in the booming cotton mills and pottery factories. Modern farming techniques have rendered these old buildings obsolete. But that provides an opportunity for ambitious house hunters like George and Sarah, who want to build an historic home. The barn has lain derelict for around 35 years. It was built 200 years ago on sandstone bedrock. Typically, cattle barns had mangers or hay racks to feed the cows. Low partition walls created separate stalls for each animal. The first floor was a loft to store the hay and keep it dry. Fodder dropped from hatches into the hay racks or mangers below. In its heyday, this barn was home to a whole herd of cattle. How can George and Sarah turn this cowshed into a family home? It's going to be a massive undertaking. George and Sarah bought the barn for £155,000, but it didn't have planning permission, so it was a massive gamble which took 2 years. It's got no running water, electricity, heating or drains. So converting this cattle barn into a home will be a colossal job. Had planning not been approved, it would have been a very expensive mistake.
This will be the master bedroom. You'll walk out of the master bedroom through bifolding doors, nice oak frame, glass. It might even be double doors, we don't know exactly the design of that. And then when you're walking along here, it'll be all patio all the way across. This will be a nice big space to bring the outside inside and that. That's the front door where you'll be walking in straight into the kitchen. And then this is still another door, the kitchen, that puts in perspective how large the actual main hub of the room is. And then we come on to the final part of the barn, which we believe this is the oldest part of the barn. You can tell by the different brickwork at the top. It's quite an ornate cornice brickwork. And we actually believe this was just built first originally, and then it just got added on over the years.
Inside we've got one of the traditional features, which we're hoping to keep, especially the arches, but we'll probably recreate the wooden frame at the back. But it is one of the only features that are in the property, so we really want to work hard to keep it.
George and Sarah have grand plans. On the ground floor, they will have a bedroom at either end. The master will have an ensuite and a dressing room. The barn's central section will be an open-plan kitchen diner with a separate utility and storeroom off to the right. They will create a separate lounge next to the dining area on the left. 2 handcrafted stone staircases will rise up either end of the kitchen, leading to a second floor, where there will be 2 more ensuite bedrooms, which will transform the old cattle barn into a spacious new family home that they also want to make super sustainable. They're planning to put solar panels on the roof, add a ground source central heating system, and create a borehole to draw on natural spring water. There's a lot to do, and their maximum budget is £130,000, which sounds healthy, but on a build this big, it could run out very quickly. To save money, George is doing most of the things himself, but he works full-time as a stonemason, so he's only got evenings and weekends. And to top it all, their deadline is just 10 months' time. That's because they're getting married right here at the barn. Two years after buying the plot, with planning permission in place and build funds raised, work finally begins.
The build didn't start dead on when I wanted it to, because it was just money sorting it out and everything just dragged on. So it set us back about, say, 2 months. We put it back into like the winter, so we just don't want a bad winter now.
Their first task is to build an internal shell of concrete block to help shore up the whole structure. To try and make up for lost time, George has drafted in bricklayer Mark Hubbard, who's worked on barn conversions before.
This barn's probably not the worst I've been to for the bows and the walls and that. It's doable. A bit more, you probably have to take it down and do it again. This is on borderline where you could just leave it up there.
Now we've got the block work going in, we can really visualise how much the barn's walls are actually bowing out, so it's quite worrying to think that this could collapse.
But it's not just the rickety walls that need attention.
We believe this is the oldest part of the barn, so we took the roof off. While the roof's off, all the weight's off the actual brickwork here, because this is the part where we've got to take the brickwork down to replace the wooden lintel below. And we'll replace that with steel, and then we can rebuild that brickwork back up.
Every barn's different. You think it's going to stay up and you think things are going to fall down, and it never goes to plan, really, to be fair. The only way you can do is just take step by step and just see how it goes. And hopefully it'll stay together.
George needs to replace the wooden beams that have held up the barn for around 200 years. If he removes them all at once, the whole building could collapse. So George must extract the crumbling 100-kilo monsters one at a time and put 4 new steel beams in their place. to create a steel skeleton that will hold up the barn, hopefully, for another 200 years. This isn't a job that George can tackle by himself. So with limited funds, he calls friends in to help out with the heavy lifting.
More hands make light work and that, but they should be all right. Depends if they were out drinking last night.
Pay for monkeys, you get monkeys, don't you?
First of all, I've got this wooden beam out here, but I've got the old pins I've been in probably 100 years.
There you go, help me.
You could only take one out at a time and then put the steel beam in, or else, obviously, the walls would start falling down.
Yeah, swing it out now.
There you go, any yours?
Set solid in here.
They must cut away some of the crumbling walls to release the tightly lodged timbers.
Calm down. Where's that crowbar? Going now.
Yes. That's the one.
They must be careful not to further damage the brittle brickwork as they lower the massive timbers.
There's no room to move. The steel ones are smaller, so they'll be going in a lot easier.
It takes equal care to raise the replacement 300-kilo steel beam into position.
Go down, Rob. Whoa, 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 whoa. That's it.
They use brackets to screw the support into the wall.
Just make sure these are tight and just hand tight, so it just takes the weight, just helps take the weight.
Feeding time at the zoo.
This is
every week we come. This is the only reason we do come.
Good job. Good job done there.
With their dream wedding 7 months away, the massive scale of this project is beginning to hit home.
Every time I look up there, I just think how awful it looks. So do you think we're still on track then? Still going to get there?
I think we might get there.
They may have saved the structure, but they still need to finish rebuilding the roof before they do anything else. Having bought the barn for £155,000, their plan is to make it watertight and transform it into a comfortable 4-bedroom family home. George and Sarah are now 5 months into their 10-month rebuild. By now, they should be working on the inside of the barn, but they've only just completed the roof.
The roof's finished now. It does go a bit wavy, but we wanted to keep it quite natural, and that's what the old roof was doing anyway. And we've reused all the old tiles because we wanted to keep all the character to the barn.
George has managed to dig the trenches for the sustainable heating system. But with demanding day jobs, the schedule of this self-build is falling behind, and their wedding is just 4 months away.
I wish it was 6 months' time, put it that way, but the people who are coming to the wedding know that we've been doing the barn, so they'll just have to see a bit of mud, won't they? They can't. We'll put some grasses over it, it'll be all right.
George and Sarah will need to put some extra hours in if they want the barn finished for the wedding. But time is not on their side. And some of their plans for the interior are lavish. George is a stonemason and has come up with the ambitious plan of building not 1, but 2 solid limestone staircases, which in itself is a huge undertaking. First, he must cast a sturdy concrete base that can support the heavy staircase. Then he'll insert the first 2 treads into narrow gaps in the wall and bolt them down onto the base. For the rest, George will use an ingenious design called bird's mouth, where the treads are shaped to interlock. They attach to each other without any bolts, simply held in place by gravity and friction. To access both mezzanine floors, George must build 2 of these stone monsters, one at each end of the open-plan living space.
So I've installed tread 1. Tread 1 gets bolted down into the concrete. It gets chopped out into the brickwork as well, so it gets pocketed in. Eventually, when we put tread 2 in, we'll fill both of them together. And then we've drilled the 3 holes for tread 2.
Commissioning 2 staircases like this from a specialist firm crafted from sought-after and pricey Portuguese Molianos limestone would have cost George around £40,000. But cutting and installing all the stonework himself brings the price of this eye-catching feature down to just £4,500 to cover the cost of the limestone. It's a huge saving, but eats up a lot of George's time and energy.
See if it fits.
It's crucial that each tread sits perfectly level on top of the next, so the staircase rises to just the right height to reach the upper floor and remain stable. George uses concrete filler to secure the first 2 treads in place.
That should go in now, hopefully. The problem is I made the pin too long. You need to take that pin out.
Yes. Can we get it?
Yeah. You need to have to mess about with the glue then as well. Bang on. Surprised about that.
Each tread takes George 9 hours to cut and install. He needs 30 treads to complete both staircases. This part of the build will eat up a month of George's precious time, and the wedding day is bearing down on them.
Tread 3 is different. We don't need no pins because what we have is a bird mouth. This part of the stone will land on this part of the stone, so it sits over locking in, so it won't push that way. What's that drill, sir?
Oh, God. Did that last time.
It's about there.
Well, looks like it'll go down now. Yeah.
George uses a gantry and tackle system to carefully lower and lock each 250-kilo tread into place.
The money shot.
Fucking good though, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it.
I just don't understand how it supports itself. Like, it just baffles me, but yeah, luckily our bedroom's downstairs, so I'm all right.
This is why I'm never going to go upstairs.
It's nice to show Sarah what I've been doing for all my life.
No, it's definitely a moment. You should be really proud, George.
Yeah.
I've just enjoyed spending time with George, actually, and just seeing what he does and him explaining things to me. Like, I don't know, I didn't even know he knew all of this, so the fact that he's doing so much of this build by himself is just great.
Some jobs do require a specialist, so George and Sarah have put aside a portion of their budget to pay for skilled craftspeople like blacksmith Lee Trumbull. Lee is making a steel girder that will anchor one of the stone staircases as it curves away from the wall and up onto the first floor.
It's been cut, mitered up into different angles to form the rake of his stair.
Once in place, the girder will remain on view.
A lot of my work is covered up, so it'll be it'll be nice to see the finished job and to think that it's something that I've had a part of.
Lee set up this workshop 25 years ago and has been working here as a blacksmith ever since.
Everything else in the workshop, including me, is old, but this is one of the latest welding masks with all the aircon, so nice and cool. tend to use horseshoes as lifting devices. The client's quite taken up with it and is on about leaving it on as a showpiece.
Horseshoes are traditionally given to newlyweds to bring good luck, something that George and Sarah will need a great deal of to keep this massive build on budget and schedule.
The hooks actually will be on the beam, so I think something like that. So it'll be make quite interesting with the horseshoe as well. Put a little bit of character on the job.
At the barn, George has almost completed the lower part of the staircase, ready for Lee's feature steelwork.
So we're up to tread 7 now. We've just stopped on this one while the blacksmith welds the steel. This will be the next part of the staircase. Then we can carry on with the treads. That frees me up a lot more as well. Then you see I can start to push on the build as well. So it'd be nice to get it done and in.
Lee's beam will support the stone staircase at the point it turns the corner, so its position is critical.
We just put a little mark there. That's where this has got to hit, just so we know that when we start working up, all the treads will be in the right position then.
We might just have to take a tiny little bit out of this brick there.
I just got knocked the bit of brickwork out just so it just pulls it round, so it just makes it level and that. We're just about a couple of mil out. That looks better there, doesn't it?
Yeah.
A final weld fixes the steel in place.
Fitting really well. Pleased with it. Just hope he's got his measurements right, as we haven't got to come back and alter it. Leaving the lucky horseshoe. What's it, dude? All sorted.
All sorted. Sound. Yeah. Looks all right, doesn't it, that?
Looks nice, yeah.
Yeah.
Put it in the right place.
Hope so.
The bespoke hooks will take pride of place on the steel.
That'd be nice.
It's something different, isn't it?
1, 2, 3, 4. Be nice, won't it then? Yeah. Yeah.
Right, tidied up, time for a pint.
Combining traditional crafts and materials with modern building methods allows George and Sarah to bring their 19th century cattle barn bang up to date, whilst preserving much of its original character. It's a tried and tested technique used to reconfigure historic structures across the country. In Northamptonshire, the challenge of transforming this 19th century cattle barn and grain store into a functional family home has been a labour of love for its owner, Richard Sanders.
We've tried to restore the barn in all of its glory, but giving it a very modern, contemporary kind of look and feel.
The airy, open-plan living space makes a virtue of the original skeleton of the barn.
We could see this main beam and that main beam, so the ceiling was just set above this, but the purlins along the top and these higher level timbers were all completely hidden away. When we took the ceilings down, it was a kind of a eureka moment. The wood was in really poor condition underneath, so I had to have a lot of TLC to bring it back to life.
Richard took a monumental risk to extend the living space.
This stone, it's the original stone, but it's been moved. So there was a 3-foot wall here, which separated the grain barn from the animal barn. But it was in the wrong position because it was over here somewhere. So we had to move it back to make space so that this whole room worked. We managed to keep the stone. We have some steel now propping it up. You can see the bracing as well. Here and here, just everything we had to do just to literally hold the barn up whilst the wall was being moved. This is where I was very, very, very nervous. If the building had fallen down, I think, yeah, that would have been probably the end of the whole thing. But it stayed standing, and now, yeah, it's very, very secure. It's good for another 300–400 years, hopefully.
Back in Staffordshire, progress at George and Sarah's barn has been slow. The deadline for their wedding day is approaching fast, but there's still no kitchen, bedrooms, or even bathrooms. They don't even have any drains. So one of George's next tasks is to install an underground septic tank. But unfortunately, he's hit an impenetrable layer of hard bedrock.
I've got a bigger septic tank, which I suppose was a good thing in one aspect, but I've got to dig a bigger hole. It doesn't got to go down very deep. It's just the actual length of it, really, which is the killer.
But George hasn't got big enough tools for the job. This handheld angle grinder can only cut through a small amount of the stubborn sandstone rock with each slice. And the hole needs to be 2 meters deep. It's a futile battle.
Just need to run a few more cuts and get down. Once you've got down, it'll just flick up. Trust me, I'm a stonemason. With the wedding within about 3 months, I've got to get this in. I knew in the back of my mind I was going to hit rock, and I've hit it quite bad. The problem is it's stone and not soil.
Time is running out for George and Sarah. They should be getting married at this cattle barn that they are racing to transform into a home in just over 3 months. On top of all that, they've had some unexpected news, which is good, but it won't help them make up time on the build.
So we're having our first baby. Baby's due in October. So we've got a busy few months finishing the house, getting married, having the baby. We don't know the sex of the baby. We're going to have a surprise gender reveal at the wedding. The plan is that on the day somebody will hand us the cannons that are either going to have blue confetti or pink confetti. And George and I will just sort of pop the cannons and we'll all find out together what we're having.
It's wonderful news, but it's not going to solve George's problem of carving through the bedrock. He's still struggling to bury the septic tank in the ground. So they still don't have a functioning toilet yet.
It's important that we get as much of the barn done as we can for the day. As long as I can get ready there in the morning, I'm quite happy with that.
George has had better luck digging the trenches for the barn's innovative sustainable heating system. It works by extracting heat from the ground.
At least a really big mess, but we've had to dig 5 channels, 1 metre wide and 1 metre down.
He had told me what they were going to look like, these trenches, but I hadn't really paid much attention. So when I came back one day and had 5 massive holes in my garden, I wasn't really very happy about it, but it's just got to be done.
George has dug 5 colossal 45-metre trenches and now must install 1,000 metres of looped pipework. This will carry a mixture of water and antifreeze that will extract natural heat from the ground. A heat pump transfers this energy into a refrigerant, which evaporates into a gas. The gas is then compressed, increasing the temperature to a usable level, which feeds the barn's heating and hot water supply. It costs a whopping £24,000. That's nearly a fifth of George and Sarah's total budget. But any kinks or punctures in the pipework could cause the system to fail. An engineer will inspect that George has installed the pipes correctly 11 days from now. So they're going to have an anxious wait.
But you know, when they come down, you need to try and keep them in the loop because you're trying to re-loop it.
It goes where it wants to go, so you just have to go with it. You don't want to bend it a lot because you don't want any kinks in it or anything like that, but it's, yeah, it's hard work. I didn't think it was going to be this hard.
Just neaten this bit up a bit. There's another knot. It's taking a lot longer than we thought. You think you're getting somewhere and you just have to pull it all back out again.
I was getting wound up with that one, then. I have to have a drink, I think. Some air.
I think you could do a load more. There was loads more under the grass. If you just pull these ones in, loop.
It's quite a lot.
Seven hours in, and the pipes are still tying them in knots.
Let's just sort it out now.
Is that the end? That's the end.
Yes, keep pulling that through because that's going to come round there.
It's tangled up already.
It's not.
It is. I can see it's tangled up. Look.
I'm pulling it the wrong way. I don't think that's the right way. Oh,
It is,
look
it
at
is.
it now. What have you done now?
I'm getting it unravelled.
George.
I've got to get it unravelled. Just let me sort it out.
You just put it all in
Just
like this. Give up.
It takes 10 hours of backbreaking work to install the 1,000 metres of pipework. And just as they think it's job done, George spots a problem.
Just noticed it's kinked there when I was looking down it.
What's happened, George?
It's just got a little kink. I'm just marking it up, so when they come and pressure test it, hopefully he can sort it out and just go from there. We'll soon find out.
This one kink could render the whole system unusable.
Just wait for him to come and connect it all up and make sure I've done it right. Hopefully, fingers crossed, I've done it right.
Yeah, I think we've been a good team today. We've got it done. George has done as he's been told, so we've got there in the end.
After 11 sleepless nights, the day of reckoning arrives. Engineers are on site to test the £24,000 heating system, which will be money down the drain if it fails.
This is a metre down. Once it's covered back over, any leaks we're never going to find again. So the pressure test is vital.
If it doesn't go right and doesn't get pressure tested right, then, well, I don't know what I've got to do, really. Obviously, I don't know if I've got to buy some more pipes or anything like that, so fingers crossed.
First task, fix the kink in the pipe.
You want really good flow around the system because you're trying to collect as much heat as you can. And from that, it would just restrict the flow. So we just chop it out and put a new piece in. So we're now just putting electricity, a current through the fusion weld coupler, and it'll melt the two bits of pipe together as if they were new. If you use conventional fittings, there's a chance that they come undone. You never find the leak again. This way, it's like one continuous piece of pipe.
With the obvious damage fixed, everything hinges on the test.
We flushed all the air out, filled it with glycol and water, and then we pressurised it at 3 bar, and that'll show any leaks, so any snags in the pipe, any failed joints on the welding.
After an anxious 2-hour wait,
So we've completed the pressure test. The pressure didn't drop at all, so we can safely say that there's no leaks. So we've just released the pressure, taken the gauge off, and we'll just put the lid on and pack up.
They were quite impressed with me putting the pipes in. It was OK.
George and Sarah win another battle with the barn, and their wedding day plan lurches back on track.
I'm glad we've got more done today. We do want to try and have the grass growing back for August, so we've got to try and make it look nice again for the wedding.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it, that? Happy with that, aren't we? So we can just crack on and get the hot water. So that's it, we can move in and have a shower up here then, can't we? So, yeah, it'd be nice, that will.
It's 3 months later. After a tough 10-month battle, the barn is beginning to resemble a family home. There's plaster on the walls, the lighting is going in, and the kitchen cabinets are in position. The bedrooms and bathrooms may still need some work, but that's not derailing George and Sarah's big wedding day. After tying the knot just up the road, they are ready to celebrate with their friends and family. They may not be raising a glass inside the barn, but outside the grass has grown back over their farm. They have a marquee up and in full swing, and they're ready to reveal their big news.
Hey!
They're expecting a baby girl.
So we didn't manage to get in before the wedding. It's a little bit disappointing, wasn't it? But I think we realised a few weeks ago, really, that it wasn't going to happen. So we've had a week off, haven't we, just to enjoy the wedding a little bit more.
Being there before the baby gets born.
Yeah,
but,
hopefully.
We're getting there, though, aren't we?
Yeah.
It's now nearly 2 years since George and Sarah took on the monumental challenge of transforming this 200-year-old derelict cattle barn into their first home together.
See the goats, look.
They've settled into married life, and there's a new addition to the family, baby Bonnie, who's just turned 1. Their new arrival took priority over the build, so unsurprisingly, it's not completely finished. They've got windows and doors on most of the barn, but there's still a lot to do outside. Fortunately, it's a different story inside. They've focused on finishing the rooms they needed most, and the open-plan kitchen diner is a showstopper. At the far end is the sitting room, which is warm, cosy and inviting, perfect for a young family.
So this is the lounge area. We spend a lot of time in here, especially with Bonnie. We decided to have it carpeted in here, purely so it felt a little bit warmer and obviously so Bonnie can crawl around. We wanted to keep the exposed brick wall, just because we didn't have many original features in the house, so what we could keep, we really wanted to keep.
Now we're getting towards the end of the build and just finalising the last little bits, we can relax a lot more here watching TV.
Sarah and George certainly deserve a bit of time to relax. They've been working on the barn for 2 years solidly, and they've still got a long way to go. The stairs will ultimately lead to 2 ensuite bedrooms on a mezzanine level. But their maximum £130,000 budget was so tight, they've decided to do that at a later date. A big chunk of the money did go on the kitchen, which really has it all.
We did go over budget slightly, didn't we, with the kitchen. We wanted the drinks fridge, the 2 sinks, and also we've got the large American-style fridge. We did put in some ovens and a hob as well.
Glad we went for it, though, didn't we?
It's where we spend all our time, it's where we socialise with family, friends, and obviously we like to make family meals together as well.
We're not going to change the kitchen for 20, 30 odd years, so we wanted to just do it once and have done. The water, actually, we've got our own borehole here, we put that in, so we haven't got no water rates or anything like that, keeps all the bills down.
George and Sarah really have gone the extra mile in the finished areas. And they changed the layout to make way for baby Bonnie.
So this is Bonnie's bedroom. I spent a lot of time designing this room. Originally, this was meant to be our dressing room, but because of Bonnie, we decided that we would change this for now. Bonnie's starting to spend a bit more time in here as well, isn't she? Which is nice. So we do spend time playing with the toys. One of my favourite rooms. Eventually, she will go upstairs and we will get a dressing room. The most practical thing about having Bonnie's room here is that it's right next to our bedroom.
And what a bedroom they have. Light, bright, and luxurious.
We wanted to create a really nice, calm space in here. It's a really large room as well, so we've been quite lucky that we can fit lots of furniture in. I chose the colours in here. It's a space where I wanted to create that was nice for me to come and relax.
And at the end of the bed, you've always wanted a bath, haven't you?
Yeah.
So the good thing of having a bath in the bedroom, it frees up a lot of space in the ensuite.
Another elegant room for which they sourced a statement stained glass window.
The hole was original, but we wanted an idea of what to fit in. So we went looking and we found a stained glass window, and I think it works well. It wasn't really in our budget. It was about £5,000, but I'm glad we spent the money on it now.
I really like it. I like the extra light. And it's also a really big feature, a big talking point. A lot of people ask about it. They're always quite intrigued about the design, the style and everything. We didn't want to make the bathroom too girly. It needed to be more practical. We've got the luxury in the bedroom. So this space, it was more just to have the shower, the toilet and the sink and just make it a practical space.
Given the ambitious deadline George and Sarah set themselves, all the finished areas are looking really smart.
We set out to have a family home, didn't we? And when we look around the house, I feel really proud. Especially proud of George because he did so much of the work. I'm most proud of Bonnie's bedroom. I loved decorating her room. I've made it really girly and just pretty. And there's lots of things in there that are from days out, family time together, so photographs and things. So I've really enjoyed Bonnie's bedroom. It's taken a lot longer than we thought, but actually, our first night here, we were a family. We all stayed here together, didn't we?
Sarah and George bought the barn for £155,000. Their maximum renovation budget was £130,000, which was always going to be tight.
Buying the barn and all the build up to now, we're about 270, 280. We've got another 50 grand to do.
That's an estimate to finish the upstairs.
We'll probably be around the 300 to 330, depending if we come up with any other issues, which we shouldn't do now.
Time-wise as well, we didn't think it would take this long.
George and Sarah originally allowed themselves 10 months to complete this project, which was always ambitious. It's actually taken 2 years to get this far. And for now, they're going to simply enjoy what they've created.
We've got 5 acres of land, so the plan is just to have lots of animals, really.
You get too close. Not too close to my Bonnie.
From day one, we wanted to be self-sufficient, and I think we've got there.
Have a look, Bonnie, if there's some eggs. I've got 2 eggs.
The plan is to just enjoy living here. We're not doing any building work. It's taken over. We need to just relax.
This is what we wanted, isn't it? Yeah. You know, wanted the good life, and I think we're getting there.
I'm really happy. We've achieved everything that we wanted to do. We wanted to get married here, we did it. It's our family home, and we're never moving.
How do you transform a cavernous cold church into a futuristic house? Or turn a dilapidated old barn into a stylish family home? From industrial workshops to ancient windmills, this series follows brave homeowners.
The original wall had come away from the chapel.
As they take on the seemingly impossible challenges.
That isn't going to happen until next year, never mind 3 weeks' time.
You're absolutely barreling down.
Of transforming historic structures never built to be lived in. We explore the master crafts and ingenious modern design it takes to build an impossible house.
It's another bit of history saved.
In this episode, a determined couple.
The water was coming in there, the wheel was turning here.
I've got it in my head. I think it'll be absolutely smashing.
Embark on a project of a lifetime.
You see, if we knocked it down, that's like spitting on history, isn't it?
To rebuild this historic watermill.
To see someone actually bringing life back to this, for me personally, is exciting.
That's set to collapse into the River Severn.
I mean, if this crane comes anywhere too close to this edge, we're tipping down.
With ambitious plans to transform it into their dream home.
Look what we're doing to it. It's amazing.
In Cardiff, Wales,
I'm just making some coffee.
Gerald and Susan Hamer
Oh, it's very welcome.
have been happily married for 56 years. They have 2 sons, 2 grandchildren, and a large extended family. Susan used to be an English teacher and Gerald worked in finance. They enjoyed travelling and have ventured far and wide, to Brazil, India and Greenland to name a few, but have always felt the call to home and have kept a base in their beloved Wales.
That's a Rowan, and I think there's another Rowan further down.
It was always the place that defined where home was.
Now they're about to embark on their boldest adventure yet, a restoration project of extraordinary scale on the banks of the River Severn in Llanidloes, mid-Wales, where their children grew up.
It's a place we love very much. The kids weren't born there, but we moved there for them to have a super childhood.
My family originated in Llanidloes a couple of generations ago. My grandfather remembers visiting family there when there was a train service from the valleys to mid-Wales.
It's a very special place for us.
Susan and Gerald want to save an iconic part of Llanidloes' past.
I think that would probably put in when a lean-to was put on the other side.
They want to inject a new lease of life into the town's historic watermill. The structure is a treasured local icon, and the couple are aiming to plough all their energy into rebuilding it.
This is really quite a fascinating bit of work. I think that would probably have been the top of the wheel.
This industrial workhouse milled corn until 1914. It later became a carpenter's workshop and sawmill. The building has been extended and altered over time, adapting to the changes of use. Now, Gerald and Susan want to transform it into a unique 4-bedroom house.
I think it'll be absolutely smashing. I'm feeling very excited.
Watermills along the River Severn date back as far as the 12th century. Pioneering engineers harnessed the forceful flow of the river to power corn mills that ground grain into flour. And it was water, not steam power, that was the driving force behind the early stages of industrialization in the iron and textile mills of the mid-18th century. Gerald and Susan's mill dates back to 1180, when it was the only watermill around for 30 miles. It was originally built to mill corn. A hoist lifted sacks of corn up to the top floor. The sacks were emptied into bins where the corn flowed through a hopper to the millstone floor below. At ground level, a water wheel, hydro-powered by the fast-flowing water, was connected to a revolving shaft which drove the machinery to grind the corn and produce flour. The building is a labyrinth of interconnected structures of different shapes and sizes, and is thought to have last been occupied more than 50 years ago. Reconfiguring this abandoned structure perched on the edge of a raging river will be a huge challenge.
Our garden is in line with the building there. We come up to here. And,
I see. It's this way, the triangle
And we propose
goes.
to build up this riverbank to the same height as the house with things called gabions. These are great cages filled with rocks, and that'll hold back the soil, but more importantly, it'll hold back the river, because when the river's in spate, it's pretty heavy.
To transform this historic structure, Gerald and Susan plan to rebuild what's left of its existing walls with a mixture of old stone and modern bricks. They will then erect a high-tech precision-cut timber flat-pack frame inside to form the floors, rooms and roof. This will be anchored to a network of steel beams. On the ground floor, there will be an entrance hall that leads into an open-plan dining and living room separated by a central fireplace. To the left, there will be a kitchen diner, a utility room and downstairs toilet. Double doors off the kitchen and lounge will lead onto a terrace overlooking the river. Upstairs, there will be 4 bedrooms, all en suite. There will also be a terrace leading off the landing and the master bedroom.
The floor will be even, and we'll have underfloor central heating. That will make the place immediately warm as you come through the front door. I can see the furniture. The colour scheme will be pale blue throughout the downstairs and dove grey satin silk curtains. The pictures on the wall, I've already chosen 6 of them.
The watermill is over 800 years old and has been altered over time. Susan and Gerald have scheduled 15 months to bring this relic back to life. They've got a budget of £350,000, which sounds like a lot, but not when you take into account something this old, in this condition, located right next to a very powerful river. Work begins in winter 2018. The first task for the team is to remove the mill's fragile mid-19th century extension.
We've taken out the mezzanine, such as it was. We've made an assessment about the quality of the walls, and this one I think we will take down and rebuild. That one will stay because it's in good shape. Before Christmas, we hope to get the foundations in and finish the demolition work of the extraneous structures that we no longer require.
Lee Williams is in charge of excavating and laying the foundations for the building. This will be a huge challenge as they must sit on top of an original waterway that runs underneath the mill.
That's exactly how we found it. A build-up of sludge and gravel throughout the years. There was a couple of rats in the beginning. I don't know if you can see any eyes today. We've dug down it up above, 2 meters down to the top of the arch. It's built on solid rock. They've carved through the rock.
A structural engineer must now assess the stability of this tunnel before work on the foundations can begin. Gerald and Susan always knew there was a tunnel feeding water to the mill, but couldn't assess its significance because historic plans don't show its location. What they didn't anticipate was that they'd discover a second tunnel.
Here, you can see the arch over the top of the second tunnel. It ran across the floor here because this was the timber mill, and so we used the original weir to power it. But this one, it ran diagonally through here, which couldn't have been more inconvenient.
What Susan and Gerald discovered is a legacy from 1840 when the mill was in its prime. To feed power to the newly added timber mill, the owners dug a second tunnel. It sits directly under the western corner of the new building and could collapse at any moment.
The walls are bridging over the tunnel as it is, but because we're putting extra weight now on the walls and what have you, there might have to be a different solution than a strip foundation. A structural engineer will now have to come and say what he thinks is possible. It's going to be a headache for the client, headache for the architect, more than likely now. We have to redo his drawings. We don't quite know what the next step is at the moment. It could be weeks, months, maybe.
Lee and his team are forced to down tools. It's a major setback for Susan and Gerald.
We're probably looking at a somewhat expensive solution to this problem. I think we will be looking at several truckloads of concrete before we can say the problem is solved. And along with several truckloads of concrete go several bills. So I wasn't anticipating that. It has slowed us all down. I was hoping by now we would have been laying the floors and been in a position to take accurate measurements for the timber frame that's coming in. Well, obviously, we're not there. And so Christmas is coming. Chances are it'll be after Christmas.
Engineers have deemed the original tunnel to be structurally sound, but work can only continue when the second tunnel, which is close to collapse, is made safe. To do this, they must demolish the wall above, then flatten the exposed section of the old tunnel. They must then fill in the tunnel down to solid ground. Next, they must construct a reinforced concrete and steel beam over the top to strengthen the foundations. Only then can they rebuild the wall so work above ground can continue. This additional work will wipe out any hope Gerald and Susan had of completing the build in 15 months and push them way over their intended £350,000 budget. It's now 8 months since work on the build began. While Lee and the team repair the tunnels, in Welshpool work is underway to construct the timber frame, which will form the mill's new internal walls, floors and roof. Tim Wheatley oversees this unique part of the build.
Essentially, it's like a large flat pack. You know, the timber frame panels are all erected here in the factory. They're taken to site. The lads then go off the drawings to fix the panels together. Everything's cut to length, and then the panels are made next door. We're building inside an existing structure. You know, it's scaffolded to the external side of the structure, you know, so the worries just amplify. Totally different to just carting these things to a site, getting them off of a crane and just hoiking them in the plot.
On site, it's taken Lee's team 5 months to reinforce the tunnels, scaffold the building, and start to repair and rebuild the crumbling limestone shell. Today, Tim is on site to oversee the timber frame erection. It's a tight squeeze getting all the kit onto the cramped riverside plot to lift the panels into place.
We'll have the crane coming in now. The lads have got ground floor panels up, so what we'll be landing today when we come in, we'll be landing the steels to take the joists, we'll be landing the panels for the utility, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll have enough time to land the joists in as well. I'd like to utilise the crane as much as possible.
They've only allowed a few days for using the crane, so it will be a race to get all this timber work installed and avoid another costly overrun.
You're close to that bank there, drive. So even just entering a site like this, you know, you're up against it straight away. Cars parked, people in the way, and now coming onto a site like this, I mean, it speaks for itself, really, doesn't it? I mean, if this crane comes anywhere too close to this edge, we're tipping down, you know, and if this crane goes down, we're in big trouble, to be fair. So we want them at least 2 to 3 metres away from the bank. There's a lot of weight in that crane, and that's what the lads will twitch over now, so they'll just get the crane in the right position. Are you happy, drive? The edge. So this is a city crane. It's a 40-ton city crane. So hence, you know, specifically for tight areas like this.
Wow. This is the day we've been waiting for. It's amazing. It really is amazing. And I'm impressed at the reach of this crane. It's a difficult site, and these guys have organised it really well to, you know, to accommodate the limitations of space.
This is the oldest structure I've ever done, which is brilliant. You know, I'm a local boy, I live 15 miles down the road. You know, I grew up in this area. So to see someone actually bringing life back to this, for me personally, is quite exciting.
Before they can lift the timber panels into place, they must position a network of steel beams. These will tie into the stone walls and support the wooden floor panels.
This will be our first steel beam going in now. This steel has to be spot on. It's got to be spot on accurate. The minimum steel we've got is weighing around about 100 kilograms, up to around about 500 kilograms. That's slightly heavier on the largest span we've got. On a build like this, you would bring a crane in anyway, and you would hoist the panels in with a crane anyway. Ground floor, we've managed to carry ground floor in by hand. It's impossible to carry the steel in by hand.
Hang on!
Watch your fingers, Brad.
Stop!
We've got our first steel in. Sitting nicely on the pad stone there, nicely on the pad stone this side. And then now what the lads will do is joist onto that. We've got to be incredibly careful. A lot of these walls, they're not really tied in with anything. So one knock, you know, and that wall could just go.
It's a difficult site,
and it's a brute of a project. And these guys have organised it really well to accommodate the limitations of space. But we're getting there, we're on our way.
The arrival of the huge crane comes as a bit of a shock for garage owner Andrew next door.
I did sort of warn you, but I didn't tell you when. I'm sorry, not many people come to work and find a crane in their yard.
I expect a good breakfast when you're in.
You'll have the best breakfast ever.
Really, the building was basically going to fall down. You know, give it another like 5 years and it would be just a pile of rubble. So it's nice it's been resurrected. And it will be a nice house with Sue and Gerald doing it.
That's low.
With the steelwork in, they can slot the floor and wall panels into position.
Today is a really, really big day. The panels have gone in, the joists have gone in, the steels have gone in, the floor's gone in. I think this just shows when you've got the right people and the right kit and the right skills, you know, things work. Fantastic. Thank you. Good man. Good man.
It takes 2 days to install all the floor and wall partitions. The internal layout of the structure is taking shape, much to Gerald's delight after all the setbacks.
Oh, wow. Got a ceiling.
Just as they gear up to erect the panels that make up the roof, the heavens open.
Welsh weather. You know, you wake up in the morning, it's sunshine outside, you go to work, it's peeing down with rain. It's not ideal, you know, the lads are working in the wet all day, but they'll get the job done. You know, a bit of water don't stop us. You know, we crack on. The only thing we really have to be concerned about is high winds when we're utilising the crane. We've only got the crane today to get all the trusses up on the structure.
The new roof timbers may be straight, but the old stone and brick walls they must sit on are anything but.
We've got approximately a 20 to 30 mil cavity down the bottom here, but as we get at the top, we totally lose the cavity altogether. The masonry gable end is all leaning into the structure. We don't want moisture to trap on there. So we need to take all this gable end down, rebuild that back up, and give us our 50 mil cavity. We're building a kit inside a 700-year-old structure. I mean, nothing is dimensionally accurate. So the fact that we're finding that a gable end's in and we've got to rebuild the gable end back up to give us our cavity, I'd say that's about normal.
It's a relief for Gerald to see this frantic part of the build stay on track despite the torrential weather.
We've got first floor panels up now. We've got roof trusses up there now today.
Amazing.
The utility section's still left to do, but we'll tie that back in.
You can manhandle that.
Yes, we can carry that in from there.
Can't believe how much work you can get through, actually.
And as they make progress, they continue to make discoveries about the old mill.
When this wall was built, we know that the floor level was a metre below where it is now. And then, you see, beneath, we had the spillway turning the wheel. So it had to be a pretty strong wall to support
the weight of the wheel, isn't it? Yeah,
exactly. And in the corner here, we can see where the wheel bearings were.
So at some point, another 200 or 300 years on, or whatever it is, this structure's then been put up.
Someone said, let's put another couple of floors.
Yeah, let's go up again.
Yes, before they bring in planning permission. And up it went.
You know, it's taken someone like yourself to see it, put the investment in and want to bring something back.
Indeed. Say no more about the investment. I defy anybody to show me a better water feature.
It's absolutely barreling down. Awesome if you love canoeing.
It's all looking good. Shame about the weather, but I think we're going to get there. Look what we're doing to it. It's amazing. I'm very proud, actually.
Honestly, there's got to be anyone's dream. You know, to find a structure like this, the location that it's in, and to be able to bring it back to life is just absolutely immense. Would I love to do something like this? Hands down, every day of the week. But unfortunately, I don't have the money that the client has, so I'll still be dreaming.
The torrential weather is making it a real struggle for the roofers to seal the newly installed internal timber frame from the elements.
Typical Welsh summer, it's raining. So instead of going up on the roof, I'm bringing the roof down here.
They're moulding strips of lead flashing that will sit under the roof tiles.
We're making 5 of these pieces in total. I'll show you my drawing. If they don't fit, this is why. I wrote it down wrong. That's prepped, ready for welding now. There we go. Put another piece made.
Once installed, the strip should make the mill watertight and bring it another step closer to being a home. The restoration work involved in transforming an abandoned relic will usually cost more than the purchase price of the structure itself. This reconfigured pump house in Norfolk is a striking example. It was built in 1847 and housed a steam engine to pump water out of low-lying fenlands to stop them flooding. It has been lovingly restored by architect David Long.
The water from the flat landscape drains into this drainage channel that approaches this side of the pumping station and then disappeared under the building through this arched opening. Inside, there was the huge steam pump pumping away, and the water was sucked up from down there and went through the other wall of the building in a large pipe into the River Wissey.
Seeing the potential that others might not, David bought the abandoned pump house for £190,000 in 2015, with the vision to transform it into a one-of-a-kind family home.
The condition was absolutely appalling. It was a building which had not been used since 1974 when they turned the pumps off, but for us it was exactly what we were looking for.
The building was a crumbling shell. The roofs and the windows were beyond repair, but David wanted to retain as much of the old structure as possible.
The bits of the building that we preserved were the walls. With the walls, of course, come the historic openings. There's a selection of openings, existing openings, a selection of openings that have been blocked up in the past as the building changed and adapted to the various generations of steam pump that they had in it. We found piles of spare bricks inside, so we used those to make our alterations to the external walls. After that, the trick was to fit 5 bedrooms into this rather tall, thin building that had the pump in it. So what we did here was constructed a new timber frame construction inside the original structure and is tied to the existing shell. So the new timber structure actually retains the external walls.
This meant 5 bedrooms could be placed in the engine house, but the biggest challenge remained in the depths of the old pump house. Rather than keep the water out, David cleverly turned it into a luxury spa.
This was the place where the water was brought up. This actually goes down 4 metres. So there was a huge pipe which dropped down here where the water was sucked up.
It took 12 months and £260,000 to complete this dramatic transformation. This understated approach means the building still resembles a Victorian pump house.
The part that I suppose we're most proud of is the fact that we've managed to bring it back into use without having to massively change it. It still retains its original feel.
Which is exactly what Gerald and Susan are also striving for with their historic watermill restoration. In Llanidloes, it's now 10 months since the build began. The roof is finished, making the mill watertight, and all the timber frame is in.
Progress is really great. The interior walls are up. We can't do much more to the interiors until we've done the first fix for the gas, water and electricity. It's coming on really great now. We've come to a point now where we really start needing to be very detailed about the next phases, and the most important will be windows. We have decided that we really want to have triple glaze. But one of the technical problems with these that we have to face is the weight. Triple glazed windows are heavy boys and girls. So hopefully we'll be able to have them delivered with glass panels, removable, so that we can install the frames and then reinstall the glazing. The big window will weigh 200 kilos. And it's difficult, you know, this isn't a flat site. We can't approach it from the riverside. We've got to bring it in through the house.
Even though they're still far from finished, Susan's got her eye on the decor.
I can definitely know the furniture for there. But you see, this is the wall. We could have one of those really elongated dresses that you see, which are about this wide.
Sure.
And something like that, whatever age.
Plenty of walls for paintings.
It won't take up so much room if it's that narrow.
And while the interior will have a contemporary feel, Gerald and Susan want to retain as much of the mill's history as possible.
We'll keep this. We'll put a new door frame in here. It's a lovely feature. We'll clean up the stone chemically, put all this coining either side, and a little brick arch at the top.
The scale of this transformation really is extraordinary, and Gerald and Susan's enthusiasm is infectious, even when it comes to selecting the soft furnishings.
Hello, 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 everybody.
Never mind about foundations, never mind about roof, never mind about walls. We're now dealing with curtains.
Let me have a look.
Yeah, isn't it that one?
That's nearly the colour, though it's striped.
I'd be very precise about this. We all have our opportunity to discuss and to say. But irrespective of what we discuss and say, Susan will make the choice.
That's the book you're going to like.
Right, I'll flick.
There's some nice ones
Also
in there.
lovely colours there.
Yes. This is when I make my choices of colour. And I usually do it here. Yes, I think that might be...
Oh, I thought you were going to have plain.
Well,
It
that's
is
plain.
plain, but it's just got that slab running through it, so it's giving you the two-tone.
A bit of a weight to it, you see.
And if you want it to be heavier,
yes,
go for a heavier lining.
Yes, yeah.
Oh,
yes. Yeah. You see, there's that, but that compared to
That's
that
what I
is-
thought you were going to have, but I must say I would prefer
Prefer
that. It's not my favourite part of the build, but I have to remain present, and I do enjoy it. But Susan's very good. She knows what she wants, and she will make it look very nice.
There's 4 bedrooms, and I want 4 different. I was thinking of lilac, and I was thinking of green, too. Oh, I tell you what. No, I was thinking of that.
Oh, yeah, nice.
Right, I like that one. Because you can have pale green curtains and, you know, and bedding.
A lot of greens tend to go together, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. No problem. So I'll go down. I've chosen... That's 1 bedroom, that's 2 bedrooms, that's a kitchen. Definitely that. That is exact colour that I anticipate. Right, 1, 2...
And the green?
And the green, 3. Bedroom.
Bedroom. Sitting room. Bedroom. Kitchen.
It's not bad for 10 minutes. Right, I think that's it. I think we're quite happy with those, aren't we? Bye-bye, everyone.
Susan and Gerald really are a tower of strength. Over the next 19 months, they push ahead with the internal transformation. Outside, work begins on a striking, unplanned feature, sparked by a fortuitous discovery. Back in 1840, engineers built a special room on the side of the building to house the new water wheel. More than 180 years on, the addition is still structurally sound. So Gerald and Susan decide to turn it into an extra storeroom and build a terrace on top overlooking the spectacular river. It doesn't take long to lay the concrete base for the terrace. Although it's calm today, the river here can really batter this side of the building. So glass makers Graham Watkins and Gary Hughes are on site to bolt and glue metal fixing brackets into the base to secure the toughened glass panels which will surround the terrace.
It's the strongest stuff you can possibly get. It's harder than concrete.
The glass is about 34 kilo a piece. There's a bit of weight in them. Right, I'm in. It's 13.5 laminated glass, which basically means if you do ever damage it, it won't go into 1,000 pieces, it'll stay in place. When you've got to drop the other side as they've got here, that's what you need, really.
The guys work very carefully to slot and clamp each panel into the brackets.
If you were to touch it right on the edge with something very hard, it will just go, it'll just break. It'll still stay standing, but it'll just shatter. Although, if you got one of those bricks and threw it in the middle, you wouldn't break it. It's just safety glass, but it's very expensive as well.
It takes most of the day to secure all 10 panels into place. Graham and Gary glue a special rubber seal on top to form an airtight connection and moisten the rubber so the steel handrail slides on more easily.
We've got to move quite fast because the water will just evaporate before we can get the stainless on top of it.
That there will be stuck on there now. That won't come off.
I think it's brilliant. I think it's absolutely brilliant. This gives us everything we wanted. It enables us to sit here. It helps to screen the sound of the river. It protects us a bit from the wind and keeps our gin and tonics nice and cool. And I think we're going to have a fabulous terrace here to enjoy.
The unplanned feature has added nearly £8,000 to the cost of the build, but they've created a great new space to relax in.
It might have cost twice as much as a ordinary steel balustrade, but I think it does the job more perfectly and for longer.
It's been just over 2.5 years since Gerald and Susan started work restoring this 800-year-old abandoned mill in mid-Wales, reconfiguring it into a home. They set themselves a budget of £350,000 and a schedule of 15 months to complete this ambitious transformation. But the discovery of hidden tunnels and working on such a difficult site, so close to a fast-flowing river, has doubled the build time and pushed them well over budget. But now the restoration is complete. They've cleaned and repointed what remains of the original stone walls and rebuilt what was missing in brick to create a spectacular 4-bedroom home. To soften the exterior look, they've clad some sections of the modern brickwork with red cedar cladding. The cladding will eventually fade to blend with the original stonework. They've topped the roof with slate from the local Newtown quarry and have also clad the west-facing side of the house in this material to give it extra protection against the harsh weather. They've also repurposed a 120-year-old church door to create a striking entrance. The extensive transformation is just as impressive on the inside. Susan and Gerald have opened up the mill's maze of small rooms to create a large open-plan living space with floor-to-ceiling windows to make the most of the stunning river views. They've worked hard to blend ultra-modern kitchen fittings with original structural features dating back 800 years, and the result is spectacular.
This is the hub of the house. It's where all the major creative activity takes place. Susan's pride and joy, I think.
I like the fact that there's not lots of walking around. You know, you can be working here, put it in the oven there.
This is the original wall of the old sawmill. We had to brick up some holes and make new ones and repair things, but when you look at it closely, to me, it's art. I chose to use modern sand and cement mortar. I wanted to be known that these are our modifications to the old wall. This belongs to us. This was how we modified that very, very old wall to become part of the naturalness of the kitchen.
Beyond the kitchen are 2 split-level living areas with floor-to-ceiling triple-glazed windows, which let the light flood in. The windows are designed for optimal thermal efficiency to keep the cold out and the warmth in. These help to transform this once chilly industrial mill into a warm and inviting home.
This is our living area. We were very fortunate. Because of the natural conditions of the site, we were able to turn it into a split level. And we're at the lower level, where we have the outlook onto the river, which is the main attraction of the whole site, in my view. And so we watch the river coming towards us. It's not often you can get a view like that. You can often have a house alongside a river. For a site where the river comes towards you, this is pretty unique. Between the levels, we have a wood-burning stove with 2 sides. So down here, primarily, it's watching TV, sitting, watching the river roll by. And then up there, we tend to have it more as a social area for sitting and chatting. We wanted to maintain the sawmill sentiment, and so we have steps coming down to this level. The floor is a bit more complicated, but we rather enjoyed the tiling that tends to come from Iberia. So we brought these floor tiles from Spain.
Tucked away around the side of the house is a hidden gem that also takes advantage of the west-facing views. By restoring this historic relic, Susan and Gerald have tried, wherever possible, to retain the mill's authenticity. A new element is the bespoke timber staircase that leads up to the 4 bedrooms on the top floor. But they've also installed a very modern alternative.
That's a passenger lift. We both decided that we'd have one put in. Walking up and down stairs is tedious, and also it's kind of future-proofing the house. Not just for me, but for anyone who finds themselves less mobile than they would like to be.
In every bedroom, Susan's passion for style and fun shines through, mixing original features with sleek modern fittings and a touch of glamour. With bejewelled lamp fittings, mirrored vases, luxurious white marble bathroom floors and a standalone bath.
This is my very favourite room. The first thing that happened is that I chose the colour. That limited me to what I could have to go with it.
I think it's fantastic. I think Susan's done a fabulous job. All the choices, they match together rather well. The bed, the side tables, even the lights, which I find quite amusing with their little crystal tops, and the ceiling light. This dressing table, I think it's marvellous. In fact, I even think this is marvellous.
Gerald bought that for this room. And here we have the bathroom. Again, a favourite room of mine. Just lovely. The chandelier that I chose, the engineer was beside himself. All those hanging things were off. He had to put them on. And he was so tired, but he liked the results, and so do I.
Susan's eye for detail continues throughout.
And in this yellow bedroom, we have the wall still, and with a beam in it.
And that runs right through into the bathroom as well.
Yes.
In the red master bedroom, there's a full-height balcony with Juliet balustrade to make the most of the spectacular Welsh Hill views.
This is the largest room. It's a totally different colour scheme, but the grey silver curtains sort of frame it all, which I think is lovely.
And a magnificent top terrace with invigorating sounds of the raging river below.
It's just about perfect for sitting there with a cup of tea early in the morning when the sun's rising, or late at night with a nice gin and tonic.
Gerald and Susan have not only breathed new life into one of the town's most important buildings, they've crafted an amazing family home in a place that holds so many memories for them. And they're thrilled with the result.
We didn't compromise. We met the vision, and it's exactly what we expected before we put pen to paper.
But they did compromise with their 15-month build schedule.
There was no prospect of hitting that sort of target. Not that we should have set a target, really.
When you're doing a project like this, you can't get uptight. It won't make it go faster.
It took longer than we expected. Mainly, I would say, it was because of the unforeseen circumstances of the site and previous constructions on the site, the leads linking the different power sources of the mill. That was something that took a lot of time to understand and to address. And then the usual stuff, building materials not being immediately available. And beyond that, so much of what we have in this house is not off the shelf. The steel girders that we had to conceal in the roof had to be rolled to the size and lengths that we wanted them and galvanized and so on. The same with the terraces and the balconies. Almost everything is bespoke, including the staircase and the fireplace and the doors. 2.5 years to build something like this. So what?
And their £350,000 budget went out the window.
We came to a point where we said clearly this budget was for a dreamer. Now, maybe we are dreamers, but we're going to buy what we need to buy, we're going to pay for what we need to pay, and we're going to finish the job.
But despite all this, Gerald and Susan have everything they wanted.
Upstairs, each bedroom has its own colour and its own personality. The downstairs living areas is blue, calming.
From my point of view, it was perhaps even a little bit better than I'd hoped. We didn't want to, in our terms, destroy the perspective of the old building, but we wanted to renovate without changing where the doors and windows were on the side, the river side, and that has turned out to be perfect. It was an old, tumble-down set of buildings. I hope those people who pass by, and a lot do, and have a long look, I hope they appreciate what we have done.
How do you transform a cavernous cold church into a futuristic house? Or turn a dilapidated old barn into a stylish family home? From industrial wonders to ancient windmills, this series follows brave homeowners.
The original wall had come away from the chapel.
As they take on the seemingly impossible challenges.
That isn't going to happen until next year, never mind 3 weeks' time.
You're absolutely barreling down.
Of transforming historic structures never built to be lived in. We explore the master crafts and ingenious modern design it takes to build an impossible house.
It's another bit of history saved.
In this episode, an ambitious family man.
I'm fairly confident it will work. I may be the only person who is confident it will work.
Battles sinking foundations.
Bounce on that, Pete. That's not bad, Pete. It's not good, but it's not bad.
Rotting timber.
I don't think it would fall down, but you never can be too sure, can you?
And tight deadlines.
It's costing us a bit more than we hoped.
To transform this never-lived-in 200-year-old barn.
There have been times when it's felt rather like there's been less barn here than there was before we started.
Into a show-stopping family home. In Bury St Edmunds, Suffolk, Peter Kilner is about to take on a passion project of a lifetime. A retired GP, Peter has a love of all things wood. He, along with his wife Julie, live in this charming 18th century cottage. The cottage was run down when they bought it in 2015, but over 3 years, Peter meticulously renovated it into a comfortable family home. The site also came with this Grade 2 listed timber barn that's seen better days.
My intention was that we should live in the cottage and that I would have the barn as a very large and luxurious workshop, studio, store. Although we love the cottage and it's a very, very beautiful cottage, we realised our eventual house would be better in the barn where we would have more space and more freedom.
The barn is typical of the design found in the Suffolk countryside. It's located at the bottom of a hill, and the surrounding farmland is mostly clay soil. It was built 200 years ago on stone and lime mortar foundations. The base of the barn's walls are built from brick and flint, and it's topped with a slate roof. It's a huge 3,300-foot space that up until 150 years ago was used as a threshing barn. Large doors allowed vehicles to enter and deposit their cargo of wheat. A horse-powered threshing machine processed the crops. The thresher separated the wheat from the chaff and filled bags of grain that would be used for flour, cattle feed, or brewing. The introduction of steam engines and machinery out in the farm fields in the 1850s heralded the end of the traditional timber barn as a storage and processing building. This barn probably went out of service around the same time, and although the structure has deteriorated over the years, it's thought the layout is as it was when it was abandoned.
This, we think, is part of the original barn, although it may have been put on a bit later, perhaps in the latter part of the 19th century. It's on the south side of the barn with a lovely outlook, and we have these wide openings all along the south side which lend themselves to large glazing. So our intention is to have the kitchen there, an eating area here in the middle, and here where I've got my temporary workshop, a sitting area. The setting of the barn is one of the really good things about it. We would hope to keep it looking reasonably natural. We don't want a very formal garden, but we do love open views and wildflowers, and water in particular, I think, makes a wonderful focal point for any view.
After years of neglect, transforming this agricultural ruin that never even had running water, let alone electricity, into a 21st century home is an enormous challenge. Peter has a budget of £450,000, which might sound healthy, but a build of this scale could eat that up very quickly. Peter plans to exploit the barn's vast open space. The old barn doors will become a grand double-height entrance that leads onto the dining room. The old lean-to will become a kitchen diner. 2 wing extensions will become spare bedrooms. A central staircase will lead upstairs to a sitting room and master bedroom with ensuite that have views across the rolling Suffolk countryside. Peter also wants to turn the old barn pond into a natural swimming pool in order to complete the timber barn's transformation into a modern home. Work begins to save the structure, starting with the foundations. Peter's brother-in-law, Tony, a former builder, will oversee the construction.
When it was a barn, I don't think anybody was worried, but now it's going to be a habitable dwelling. You've got to protect the foundations from being washed away by the water eventually.
The barn sits at the bottom of a hill. So in heavy rain, water collects around the building, gradually eroding the stone and lime foundations. To save the barn from collapse, Tony must collect the water in a 100-foot-long drain to divert the water away from the foundations and into a sewer under the road. Tony has already dug a trench next to the barn and laid drainage pipes that are connected to the main sewer. Today, they are being set into the ground. Peter's hiring contractors to help Tony whenever he needs them.
Today we have 2 concrete lorries booked. We hope that the pipe will be completely buried and there will be a secure base for the wall of the barn and it won't fall into the road.
The pipe needs to be set at the right depth and angle to meet the drain and then the sewer.
Unfortunately, the concrete is causing the pipe to flow upwards, so it's now misaligned to the embedded pipe there. So it's a bit of a dilemma. Look how much that's gone.
Oh yeah. Oh dear. Oh, that is a.
That's you know.
So and so, isn't it? So okay.
Whether you can phone up one of the farmers, see if he'll come around with his telehandler. That's
Well,
not come out.
If we get a couple of us on that end, I think we can lift it.
Because it's got to come out, Pete, because that's 10 inches out there.
Yeah.
Look on there. Ready?
Yep.
Not quite as planned, but that's the way it goes.
The problem is that the concrete was so fluid that it flowed under the pipe and lifted the pipe right up, which meant that it wouldn't work as a drainage pipe. So we're trying to get the liquid concrete out and put it back down and put some dryer mix on top. It's amazing how quick it goes in, not so quick coming out.
Just bang the top of that pipe.
Hey!
If we bounce on that, Pete. That's not bad, Pete. It's not good, but it's not bad.
Yeah, good.
So it's now back down, settled out, not as low as it was, but still pretty good. So now we'll bring the big lorry back, flood the top of it with a dry mix, and that'll be job done.
It's a big relief to see it all buried and more or less at the right level, I think. I don't think it will erode anymore. Should last another couple of 100 years.
It's now 2 months since work began. The perimeter walls are up and the roof is being rebuilt.
I was worried about starting so late in the year, but so far so good. The most important thing is to get the shell of the main barn as strong and weather-tight as possible before the weather breaks.
Chris Looms leads the team of roofers racing to make the structure watertight before the winter. They must carefully remove all the tiles, repair the trusses, cover with a waterproof membrane and put the slates back on.
It's leaked over the years, there's been problems with it, so you have to take your time, basically, and take everything off in piece by piece, really, and work your way back up from there. We'll probably save around sort of 30 to 40% of what's here, which will go down on the lower roof somewhere out the way, so it still gets used on site. So it's keeping some of the history of the building here.
They may be able to reuse some of the old roof, but the replacement slates, timber and installation will eat up around £200,000, nearly half of Peter's budget. It's a painstaking process, but he wants to preserve as much of the original structure as possible, including the timber cladding. This is made up of a mixture of elm, chestnut and pine that the carpenters are working hard to save, repair or replace when necessary.
They will have to take all the boards off the east wall and the west wall because they're badly deteriorated. But before they remove them, they're going to put some temporary strengthening battens across the existing stud work so that hopefully it won't blow down.
This will be stripped off. It's just rotten. It's got woodworm all in it. I'm trying to preserve these timbers behind because they haven't really taken much of a battering. Peter wants to keep as much as he possibly can, but these are just beyond repair. To leave these boards on would just be pretty pointless, really.
They must remove the timbers and slates with extreme care to prevent damaging the structure.
I don't think it would fall down, but you never can be too sure, can you? It's always better to be safe than sorry.
While work continues on the barn, Peter maps out plans for the grounds. He loves nature and he likes swimming, so he has an ambitious scheme to build a pool to blend in with the surroundings.
I'm trying to convert what was a natural pond into a natural swimming pond in a way that is as eco-friendly as possible. I've decided to make it all of timber. There was a natural pond here, and the soil is mostly boulder clay, which actually retains water very well without any other kind of artificial lining being put in. I'll put some boarding behind the framework, I'll feed in some stone. The whole framework will eventually be submerged about 20 or 30 centimetres under the water.
Building any kind of pool without a waterproof lining is brave, to say the least. Peter has drained the old pond and dug out the clay to make it deeper. Below the intended waterline, he's building a timber frame and ramming stones tightly into the clay for extra support. At one end, he's installing a pump chamber to filter the water and maintain the water level. Now all he has to do is hope that his makeshift barrier will hold and stop the pump chamber and barn from getting wet feet.
I'm fairly confident it will work. I may be the only person who is confident it will work. I haven't really talked to anybody else who's built a wooden swimming pond.
It takes 2 months for Peter to single-handedly build the barrier and fill the pond with water. But after all his hard work, his hopes are shattered. The water has seeped through the barrier and is leaking into the pump chamber.
Pete's principle was that because, you know, we're way below ground level, that the pond would be within the clay line and therefore hold the water. The problem is Pete set the water level slightly higher than the clay line, and therefore the water is leaking into the pump chamber.
We're going to have to lower the level of the pond. I'm going to do that now by taking out this pipe here, exposing the end of a lower pipe which goes down to the lower pond. There it goes. We'll drain about 2 feet of water, which will be sufficient, hopefully, to dry the pump chamber and then commence the resealing process.
They are now 4 months into the build. The winter weather makes progress slow going. The swimming pond is still leaking, and the shell of the barn isn't watertight.
Costing us a bit more than we hoped and taking a bit longer than we hoped, but I'm still hopeful that at least the main barn will be done by next winter and we'll be able to move in.
Wind. We held up a little bit with the weather. Obviously, it was icy, so we couldn't get on for a bit. Whoa, excuse the wind. It was touch and go, actually, whether to carry on today. I thought, shall we or shan't we? But we've made a call on it. We're pretty much sheltered on this side out the way. The other side's really exposed. It's OK this side. Do you want to go around now?
It takes until the spring to repair all 6,000 slate roof tiles and 430 square feet of oak tongue and groove timber cladding to finally shield the inside from the elements. They've cleaned the timber cladding inside, added a floor for the upstairs, and the layout is beginning to take shape. Peter put in new drains to save the foundations, but a suspicious damp patch has appeared in the barn, so he's had to build an additional drain.
We've had this drain dug out over the last week. The water level has come down from about there down to 1 inch or 2 above the concrete base, and we hope perhaps over the course of the next week it will seep away altogether and we can feed some concrete in to strengthen this weakened wet corner. The concrete, when it goes down, will start to bring the whole building together and make it look more like a house than a barn. It will be encouraging to have got to that stage. There have been times when it's felt rather like there's been less barn here than there was before we started.
Following the changes in farming since the 1950s, the conversion of disused barns into dwellings has increased. Their high-vaulted ceilings, exposed beams, open-plan spaces and large windows that flood the inside with light have made them a popular choice. The combination of ultra-modern interiors, large communal kitchens, and traditional rustic exteriors provide a wonderful juxtaposition of comfort and history for family life in the 21st century. It's now 10 months since Peter and the team started work on the barn. The roof is complete and the exterior timber work is on, but it still needs doors, windows and interior fittings, and the bills are adding up.
We have rather compromised our finances and have decided that from this point on we are going to take on much of the work ourselves.
Pete obviously had a budget originally, and he had a budget for the design and build, but the design was, well, it is a staggeringly beautiful design. But to have one contractor do this entire project is probably a £1 million build.
So for now, Peter and brother-in-law Tony will be doing all the work themselves.
I was a builder for a while, which I thoroughly enjoyed. Retired now. And when Pete started this, it's like I love it, really. And I just come over to help out. I thoroughly enjoy it. I don't want any payment. I just come over and help him.
I'm looking forward to the next few months, hoping that we can get it together.
Today, Peter and Tony are working inside the rebuilt lean-to extension that will house the kitchen. They're putting in steel beams which will hold up the roof, then covering them with the original trusses to maintain the historic look.
There will be some minor trimming of the trusses to get them to fit both ends, and then we have to make sure that the props supporting them at each end are strong enough and straight enough to do the job.
I'll keep you fit, Tony. You're doing well, mate, you're doing well. Keep going. Would you?
Looking good.
Being a barn, the original builders didn't worry too much about making anything square, so the old truss isn't a perfect fit.
We're just trying to get the beam jammed up there as high as we can, but unfortunately it's twisted a little bit, so it's a bit of a faff, but we'll get there.
Oh, hold on up a bit. Yeah, I'll do it.
What's this end here? Because it's got a bow in it, hasn't it? So, yeah, about there.
There?
Yeah. Yeah, that looks okay. Almost looks as if we know what we're doing.
Mate, that's not too shabby at all.
No, that's within, that's level. Yeah. Oh, round of applause. Well, they're in, Pete. What do you think?
Looks great, Tony. Yeah, they've done a fantastic job.
They're both more or less level. They're within the lines.
Amazing, yeah.
What do you mean amazing, Pete? What do you mean take that as a slander? Amazing. Did you hear that, Wayne?
What's that, Wayne?
He said it's amazing they're level.
I think the trusses will be a good reminder of what was here before. They tell a bit of the story of the building, so I'm well pleased.
Peter wants to retain the original features in the barn, but his architect Al has industrial touches in mind for the interior, such as shuttered concrete, which Peter has reluctantly agreed to install.
These are the two concrete walls that I'm making the base shuttering for at the moment.
The concrete feature will run around the lower half of the walls in the open-plan formal dining area. To make it, Peter first builds a wooden mould. This is a watertight box that has beadwork inside to shape the concrete. He clads the inside faces of the box with Douglas fir timber. This will give the exposed surface of the concrete a grainy wood panelled look. They pour the cement mix into the mould, then bolt plywood to the back. Once set, they remove the mould and attach the panels to the walls. It takes Peter and Tony 4 weeks to fabricate and fit all the concrete panels.
We've shuttered up to the height of about 1.7 metres. Above the concrete, we're building up stud work up to the height of the triangular roof trusses, and that stud work we're going to clad in birch ply. It's been a learning experience, but I've sort of got into it a bit now.
The mixture of concrete and wood brings warmth to the inside as the wall panels start to divide up this cavernous space.
The whole structure should be strong, and then when it's all clad in birch ply, it'll be stronger still. It was a wild idea to me, but I've been talked into it and I now like it. Really, I think it's keeping the idea that this was a working agricultural building built in a strong but basic way without unnecessary ornamentation. And I know Al was very keen that that ethos should be kept.
Peter is working hard, but even with Tony's help, progress is slow. Today, architect Al is back to check on things.
Hi, Al. Good to see you. Fine, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks.
Yeah, so we've done a bit since you last came.
That's coming on.
Yep. Yeah, skylight glass. We put these old doors back up. They slide across, and we put the trusses in today.
Great. Quite obsessed with these doors, actually. It's looking good.
Al is clearly impressed with the attention to detail inside, but he knows Peter is far from finished.
Next, the windows and doors will go in on the south elevation, and then the front doors will go on, and then the barn will be watertight at that point. Around that time, we will insulate, lay the underfloor heating, and put the top screed down for the whole ground floor. And then there's basically all of the internal partitions, wiring. We've got not even first fix done yet, so there's quite a bit to do on electrics and plumbing. I mean, I'd say we were just over halfway through.
Despite being severely behind schedule, Peter pushes on. Over the next few months, new windows and doors are installed. And today, brother-in-law and builder Tony is levelling the foundations for one of the extensions.
This is bedroom 4, so I'm just getting the ground level. And if you want to see how not to do it, Wayne's working over there in the workshop. And he's like playing with sand, really. I don't think he's achieved anything at level yet. Have you, Wayne?
Looks all right. Yeah. I'm not sure if we're going to have enough sand.
No, I don't think we will. I've got another ton over there by the mixer. Okay. But I don't want to bring him round again because he's levelling out, so we'll have to hand barrow it round.
In an attempt to pull back the slipping build schedule, some of the barn's interior fixtures and fittings are being made off-site by mastercraft specialists. Metal worker Joe Bamfield is designing and building the bespoke railings that will run up the staircase and landing. They will have an industrial feel in keeping with the shuttering.
The brief was quite simple. Al and Peter came with a design between them of quite a simple, minimal steel shape. It's formed of a mild steel angle with 12mm steel spindles and a top rail for the timber handrail to sit on. As we're prefabricating it here in the workshop and then installing it on site, we had to do a very thorough site survey, and then with that survey we drew up the balustrade using our CAD program.
Joe needs to precision drill 99 holes in these metal strips to hold the spindles upright.
One 12mm hole done and only another 98 to go. The measurements are really important with a job like this. No room for error. Whenever you're making something in the workshop as a finished kind of piece that then gets installed on site, it can be slightly nerve-wracking whether or not it's going to fit. It's stuck. Can't get it through. Oh, it's gone through. Just because we've got tight a hole as possible in the in both sides, so it's just a little tricky to line them all up. Things like railings you can make on site, but I think you often end up with a slightly higher quality product if you're fabricating in a workshop. I've given the tops and the face a nice sand so it's nice and smooth. And we're now going to apply the patina, which is an acid which etches into the surface and makes the steel go black. Peter chose that industrial steel look to complement the original features of the barn. What I like about it is that it still feels like steel, whereas if you paint it, you know, it has that sort of plasticky feel to it, whereas blackening it leaves it like cold, like steel.
It's now just over 2.5 years since work first began at the barn. The structure is finally starting to resemble an expertly restored home, on a par with the cottage Peter meticulously renovated next door. The roof is complete, the windows are in, and the 2 wing extensions are finished.
The main building work has been actually outside this part of the barn, the 2 north wings. They were originally there and fell down in the 1960s and 1970s, but that's why we were given planning permission to put them back again. We found it's taken a lot longer and cost rather more than we'd initially hoped, but we're getting to the stage now where things are coming together and there's an end in sight.
Despite all the setbacks, Peter's love for this barn has never waned, and retaining its original features has always been a priority.
I quite like these doors because they were the original doors for the barn when the lean-to was built. Certainly been here for at least 100 years.
And to save money, Peter restored the doors himself.
They were still in reasonably good condition. I had to just patch up the edges with some new bits of oak and get a new sliding mechanism because they were really hanging by a thread on the old iron hinges. To patch up the edges of it was over £100. It's quite expensive, good quality oak, but I suspect they would cost about £1,500, £2,000 to get made by a joiner.
Peter is clearly a perfectionist and takes a methodical approach to his work.
Well, I potter along all day and work some of the time and not some of the time, and I usually carry on until about 7 o'clock in the evening and then sit in front of the telly. There is a lot of finishing bits and pieces, but not a great deal of decorating because so much of the old surfaces we've just left as they are and will stay as they are.
As plasterers add the finishing touches to the walls,
I like working on the barns because they're different, test your skill a little bit really.
Joe's railings arrive for installation.
Really looking forward to the railings going up. We've had a temporary barrier either side of the bridge made out of bits of 2x4 timber, which have been pretty unsightly, and I'll be glad that they're going. It's going to be good.
And now's the moment of truth to find out whether or not they fit.
Each section weighs 55 kilos, so they build a scaffold tower and hoist to carefully lift the 4 pieces into place.
You got it?
Yeah, man, that's sound.
It's looking good so far.
It is absolutely bang on.
That works, doesn't it? That's solid.
Yeah.
Yeah, am I? Cool. Oh, that's very snug.
Yeah.
It's a massive relief for Joe. His measurements were correct.
I'm delighted with them. They're really clean and sharp and very nicely finished. I think just what I was hoping for. It's yet to have its oak handrail made and put on, which will blend them in with the old structure of the barn a little bit more. But the contrast between the accuracy and the delicacy of these and the hefty old timbers of the barn is very pleasing.
In keeping with the barn's Grade 2 listed status, the lower sections of the exterior have been restored using traditional flint stone walling techniques. Peter uses the same materials to build the new courtyard wall to match. Inside, in the ensuite wet room, plasterer Colin is trying out an innovative technique. Traditionally used in Moroccan riads to waterproof the walls so they don't require tiling.
This is my first time trying this product. It's quite challenging, to be quite honest. So you call on your 25 years of experience and you just adapt as best you can.
Colin's applying a waterproof plaster to the walls ready for the special top layer.
Dip the sponge in the olive soap and then we apply that olive soap to the wall, very gently taking the very, very top surface, and we're just creating this little slurry on the top of the wall. And then we trail that off. We're just working that into the imperfections. And that, at the end of the day, is what will give you the overall effect. We don't want anything that's completely uniform. We want things to be a little bit random, and it just gives it a little bit more lustre.
Today, Tony is gearing up to install Peter's futuristic lights.
Now, in the old days, you used to drill a hole through the ceiling and put in a surface-mounted light, but they're not as attractive as they could be. So the modern type is this, and you have this plate which is plastered into the ceiling. So you look at the ceiling and it's nice and flat. And then you have these light fittings which go inside this plate, and they're magnetic. So that's it fitted on there. So some people paint that the same colour as the ceiling. I like them, I think they're nice, and they do tilt slightly because this room by intent is the study, but it can also become another bedroom. And so then you need to have the lights tilted slightly for the ambience of the bedroom.
Another area that's been a labour of love is Peter's swimming pond. He had a long-standing battle with the pump, so eventually replaced it with one that's designed to be submerged in water.
Having a larger pond here that is big enough to swim in is good for the wildlife. We're pleased we've got a very good newt population in both the ponds.
Peter's desire to create an eco-sustainable environment is slowly coming to fruition, but there's still a long way to go. 2 months later, and 2 years longer than planned, Peter's build is in its final phase. Sitting proudly between the natural pond and the newly created swimming pond, surrounded by wildflowers, the barn looks magnificent. Peter was determined to preserve the historic integrity of the structure while also making it sustainable, and he's achieving just that. From the artisan flint work to the lead detail around the edge of the roof slate and the three-quarter hung timber cladding, Peter is linking architecture across the ages with his use of both traditional and contemporary materials. The cathedral-like entrance is magnificent and welcoming. The expansive windows give glimpses of the old barn structure whilst reflecting its surroundings. Inside, although the main structural work has been finished, Peter still has a little way to go, but his attention to detail is unwavering.
It is satisfying to walk in here and see and feel the space and the light and see the contrast between the new bits and the old bit, which we've left as near as we can to how it was originally built, but left the central portion more or less as it was, even to the extent of putting back the old stone flag flooring that was here when it was first built.
The mixture of concrete and wood in the cavernous entrance hall and dining area helps divide up the vast open-plan space and soften the look.
I think my favourite area of the barn is this central section because there is this feeling of space and light with views out either side and fairly obvious contrast of the simple, even brutal modern bits against the well-aged and softened old bits.
Peter has transformed what was once the old lean-to into what will be a light-filled kitchen and living area with the central focus on the spectacular outlook.
When my wife and I are here by ourselves, we will hardly use the rest of the barn, but just spend our days in here and in and out of the garden.
And he's repaired and rehung the original doors that separated the lean-to from the main barn. Upstairs, Peter has linked the two separate spaces with a bespoke, understated bridge, which enhances the high ceilings and vastness of the barn.
I'm delighted with the bridge. It has achieved simplicity and strength that we were aiming for. And hopefully, throughout the barn, and in particular on the bridge, there has been this contrast, but at the same time, harmony between minimalistic, light, modern design and traditional, old, heavy timber, brick and flint design of the original barn.
Throughout the barn, new double-glazed windows make imposing frames around the original structural timbers.
In our case, it's because the first floor actually has much bigger windows and better light than the ground floor, as we weren't allowed to penetrate the brick and flint plinth that surrounds the ground floor. We're lucky here that we've got an outlook onto our swimming pond facing westward, so we get the sunsets in the summer, and a really good view of the original timber construction of the barn. The upstairs living space, we've decided to have no ceilings, just to leave the original roof space open throughout, apart from the ensuite bathroom.
Outside, the grounds are magnificent. Peter is striving to leave the landscape as natural as possible. His property is blessed with two natural water sources, and while the lower pond remains untouched, Peter's passion to create a natural swimming pond has come to life.
Certainly, those around me thought it was a mad idea. It relies really on a good growth of plants in and around it to take the nutrients out of the water so that the algae won't grow. The water is still cool at the moment, but it is swimmable, and I have been in a few times and hopefully be going in a lot more as the summer goes on.
Peter's barn restoration is a testament to his tenacity and hard work, but the build is taking far longer than planned.
The initial one that it would take a year, and then my modified one that it would take us 18 months, and then my modified one that it would be a couple of years, has now changed into 3.5 years, we hope. Certainly the outside work, the work around the swimming pond and that kind of thing, is definitely going to be next year now.
And his £450,000 budget was spent long ago.
We've borrowed about another 50,000, which we have also more or less spent. We're probably going to need another 50,000.
But for Peter, it's not about the schedule or the money.
I particularly enjoy pottering. I think what I have found a bit difficult is working under pressure, because I've clearly not been achieving what I thought I was going to achieve for the time it has taken and for the money it has cost.
Peter has a clear concept of what he wants to achieve, which he is executing with love and consideration.
I do have that tendency to get an idea and focus on it and feel that I must do it for better or worse. I'm fairly determined not to launch into another big building project and not to move from here until I am too old, frail to be here.
Peter set out with an ambition of respecting the barn, its history and materials, to secure its future and create a sustainable family home. He's doing just that. How do you transform a cavernous cold church into a futuristic house? Or turn dilapidated old barns into a stylish family home? From industrial wonders to ancient windmills, this series follows brave homeowners.
The original wall had come away from the chapel.
As they take on the seemingly impossible challenges.
That isn't happen until next year, never mind 3 weeks' time.
It's absolutely barreling down.
Of transforming historic structures never built to be lived in. We explore the master crafts and ingenious modern design it takes to build an impossible house.
It's another bit of history saved.
This time we're in Australia, following a courageous family.
The building itself is quite small. Some of the boards are rotten on the end, so there's a lot of replacement to be done.
Dad's really good to work with. He's open to ideas. He will say no to a lot of things, but you can beat him down. You just keep pushing and pushing, then he'll eventually roll over.
Taking on a mammoth move.
It's 8 metres wide at the bottom and 8.5 metres wide at the top part of it. We've got a long way to go and a short time to get there.
With complex construction challenges.
Very nice, very nice.
And spiralling costs.
What's that worth?
About $10,000 sitting out there.
In those drums. Happy days.
To transform this century-old Salvation Army hall into a spectacular family home.
Oh, beer grant, what a surprise. Thank you very much.
In Queensland, on Australia's east coast.
Cheers.
Family man Bob Chambers is the proud owner of a steel fabrication business. He also has a passion for property and is about to take on his most ambitious renovation to date.
I started developing small projects about 3 or 4 years ago, and this is my biggest one. The rest of them were done for my daughters.
Bob has 3 grown-up children, and his daughter Lucy is helping him project manage his latest venture.
Our family, we have this ability to live together, breathe together, work together. We've always done everything together.
Bob's ambitious plan to restore an historic structure and turn it into a home has been a long-held dream. But it was put on hold several years ago when his wife Robin sadly became terminally ill.
The idea actually transitioned into a reality after I lost my wife to cancer, unfortunately, 3 years ago. So I decided, well, I might as well see that project through, because we never had an opportunity to do it together. We were together for 38, 39 years. Robin and I met when we were only teenagers, and she always had a design flair for something a bit different, so she was naturally gifted in that regard. So therefore we were a good team. I'm on the practical side and she's more on the design side. She would have been around, she would have helped me. And my daughter's helping me with some of the design concepts because she's very much like her mother.
Going to come like from the very top of the thing.
Yes.
And then go
all the way down. All the way
Are
down.
we talking like this much of a section?
800 wide.
Dad's really good to work with. He's open to ideas, he's flexible. He will say no to a lot of things, but you can beat him down. You just keep pushing and pushing, then he'll eventually roll over. I learnt that from my mum. But no, he's really good. We have a good dynamic. Oh, yeah, right.
That's all the way, all the way through.
Yeah, holy moly.
Yeah.
Bob has bought this historic hall for $46,000. It was built in 1912 in the town of Nanango in Queensland for the Salvation Army. Used as a meeting place for locals, it closed its doors in 1994 and was moved to this special storage yard in 2008 in the hope that one day it might be saved and renovated. The hall was built on stilts from 365 metres of pine wood donated by locals. It was big enough to seat a gathering of 200 people. And its layout has not changed for over 100 years. At the back, there's a 2-metre square pastor's office, and although the building is considered derelict, it still has all its original features which Bob wants to keep. But this is not going to be a conventional renovation. Bob's plan is much bigger. He intends to move the hall 160 kilometres across country to this plot in the exclusive suburb of Coorparoo in Brisbane.
It's very well known and well considered in the real estate area in Brisbane.
Bob's bought the land and hall for $1.65 million. Moving it will cost another $46,000, and that's before any building work has started, which Bob reckons is going to add another $2 million, taking the total project cost to just under $4 million. This is not a cheap venture. Transforming this small hall into a family home needs big vision. The hall will form the proud centrepiece of Bob's dream home. On the ground floor will be an open-plan kitchen diner with a feature fish tank and also the lounge area. They'll fit double-height doors and apex windows to take in those city views. Above will sit the master bedroom with ensuite. And on the roof, solar panels will generate clean energy. To the rear, there will be a new pavilion with a lobby area and bedroom. And at the front, another larger 2-bedroom pavilion will also house a further living area and spa. The grounds will be landscaped with 4 separate courtyards and a pond in the back garden, all to complete the transformation from a rickety Salvation Army hall into an eco-friendly luxury home.
The building itself is quite small. Some of the boards are rotten on the end, so there's a lot of replacement to be done. That little hut part there is where the pastor apparently lived every time he came up, but you can't even swing a cat in there. That will be removed before it goes down to Brisbane. We don't have steps at the moment, so this is my entry. And it's in its original condition. Windows are still operating. They might be a little bit worn or wear, but they're still working. The cathedral windows that you see here will be retained, and there may be some feature glass put into those to make them stand out.
Bob anticipates the build will take 2 years, but there's a huge amount to do before his dreams become reality.
Where I'm roughly standing right now is the location of where the kitchen will be. This cutout actually is, funny enough, about the size of the fish tank that you'll see when you walk through the main entry. The other end will have the lounge room in it, where you see a stage right now. That's where the big 6-metre tall aluminium doors will be put with various pieces of coloured glass and LED lights in them, and that will give you the view out to the city and Mount Coot-tha. Above the kitchen is going to be the loft bedroom, which will be the main bedroom.
Bob also has the environment in mind. Brisbane is in Queensland, known as the Sunshine State, so an ideal part of the world for an eco-home.
There'll be a 20-kilowatt solar system placed on the roof, battery system for self-sustainability, 2 water tanks. Everything I can do to make it that way is being done to make it very eco-friendly.
The first job is to slice the old pastor's room off the main structure. The hall itself is far too large to be transported in one piece, so they must sever and lift the roof off. Matt Cranen is in charge of hauling this fragile structure from the yard to Bob's plot. It won't be easy.
Well, we're just transferring our support beams under the building now so we can carry the building on the road, just so that it'll keep it all straight.
They support the base of the structure on steel beams. Tie the walls tightly together with steel cables. Then carefully separate the roof from the 110-year-old walls and hoist the two sections of the hall onto flatbed trucks. As the loads are oversized, they will travel overnight with police escorts to minimize disruption on the roads. It's a military operation.
It's 8 metres wide at the bottom and 8.5 metres wide at the top part of it. We've got a long way to go and a short time to get there, actually. We're travelling almost 300 kilometres. It's 10 o'clock right now and we really need to be off the road by 4 o'clock. We're heading from a rural country town down to Brisbane. There's power lines, there's bridges, there's traffic islands, there's roadworks. We've got to go through a couple of country towns. They've got narrow roads. We've got a long way to go and we can't afford to have any problems.
Manoeuvring this massive cargo over narrow bridges and through small towns is going to test Matt's team to the limit.
Don't go any more to the right. We've got a good crew behind us. We've got the police and the pilots, but it still doesn't mean there's no pressure on. I mean, there'll be a few spots where we've probably only got, 100, 150 mil, absolute tops.
It takes 48 long hours for Matt to haul Bob's historic hall 160 kilometres to his plot. There, cranes carefully reassemble the two sections of the fragile building back together, so Bob can begin the task of restoring and extending it into a luxury family home.
The building itself isn't that large, so it's going to be the central focus, and then there'll be two other buildings built front and rear, which will connect through bridges, and it will be made into a very upmarket home.
The existing structure is just over 100 square metres. But Bob intends to double the footprint by building two extensions, making it a palatial 4-bed eco-home with solar panels on the roof and a luxury spa underneath. Over the next few months, Bob's team erects the outer frames of the new pavilions.
Cut that brace through there and then cut that. But yeah, like you and Blaney might have to hold each side.
Every time you come, it changes, doesn't it? It's all coming together now.
Bob's recently broken his leg in a fall, but there's no stopping him coming to site to push the build along.
The rear pavilion is just about completed now, and it's going to be a one-bedroom, self-contained villa, and then a front pavilion, which is also a 2-bedroom, self-contained villa.
Bob's vision to save an historic structure by transforming it into a luxury modern home is coming together. Brisbane gets at least 7 hours of sunshine a day all year round, which Bob intends to fully take advantage of to make the building eco-friendly.
So we're going to have about 18 kilowatts worth of solar panels here, and we've got a 15 kilowatt lithium battery that'll get installed in the back of the garage with a couple of car recharge points. Almost be totally off-grid with that.
Bob's installing solar panels to power everything inside and outside, including car charging. All of this will be wired up and managed by a smart app, ensuring every element of the house is only in use when it's needed. Bob is also burying two 7,500 litre water tanks in the ground. These will collect stormwater to irrigate the gardens and feed water features. There's nothing Bob hasn't thought about, and one of the main reasons he's bought this plot is for the views.
We're going to be taking the rest of that timber wall out so that we can start measuring up for the two big glass doors that are going to go in.
We're just going to cut those 3 studs, take them out and then cut that last one, leave the head on, take that out. Just hope it doesn't get the old brickwork that's been there for 100 years.
Bob's $1 million home is finally getting the $1 million view it deserves.
Righto, you ready? Game time.
Ready? Go.
She's going, push it. Done. Not bad view now.
Very nice, very nice.
Bob's vision for his new home is slowly taking shape. It's not the first time an ambitious renovation project of this scale that also fuses old with new has been done in Brisbane. Builder Glenn Williams and his wife Gabby bought, restored and extended this church, which was derelict, 4 years ago, and the results are spectacular. They wanted to renovate the historic church, but build an ultra-modern wing for them to live in as well. Outside, they've also built a pool and tennis court in the magnificent grounds.
The new building is very much a juxtaposition to the old one, and we didn't, on purpose, didn't try and compete with the church. So I think that the two buildings play off nicely against each other. This is a style of architecture that I love anyway. Concrete and timber, very much like an industrial style. That's what I had in my mind for this house. My architect, he was very much on board with that thought pattern. I've said, I want the pool out here, bedrooms up top, I want big open spaces. Just laid it out, and then he started. He come back with his first draft, and yeah, it was really good. We never changed from it. Never. Yeah, the look and everything, he nailed it.
The styling was tricky because they are such separate spaces in different themes. So we have kept the interior of the new house clean and simple, and earthy tones. Whereas the church with the beautiful stained glass windows, we wanted lush fabrics, something cosy, something really warm, and we wanted to be true to the space. And it's okay that it was very separate to the rest of the house. It is a big space to fill, so we had to think long and hard about how to furnish it. In the end, we couldn't find a dining table large enough, so Glenn got his tools out and built the table. So this is custom made. We could have a lot of fun with this. All the colours from the stained glass windows. We could do crazy chairs. We could do Chesterfield lounges. It's almost very gentleman's lounge kind of.
With the big dining tables, we sort of thought it would be like a scene from the Last Supper, inside the church.
Glenn and Gabby have really stretched their imaginations here, fusing old and new.
I love this part of the house. From here I can see the pool, the view, the children playing, the front yard, out to the church, tennis court. It's why we bought the property.
Glenn and Gabby have created a striking home while importantly preserving the historic church within it.
I think for the most part, people love it. We always have people stopping out the front and taking photos and stuff, and it's sort of funny when people are at the front taking a photo and you pull up, they sort of hide their camera and chuff off.
The children's friends love to come and visit. There's plenty for them to do with the tennis court, the pool. So we're lucky in that regard, and also to position-wise, so we're close to town. To sell up and move somewhere, I just can't imagine where we would go that would give us this much, give the family this much. Geez, they might bury us in the old graveyard. You never know.
It sure would be hard for anyone to give up such an incredible home. With the outer shell of Bob's grand restoration project now almost complete, he's pushing for innovative design throughout the inside. He's particularly excited about the floating bedroom.
The architect's intention for the loft bedroom was to make it look like it was hovering in the middle of the space, and it has the views right throughout the whole site, right throughout to the city.
The floating bedroom is an engineering magic trick. The support beams are hidden in the kitchen ceiling. Bob is using Australian hardwood to trim the beams and visually connect them to the timber screens either side. At the top, hidden fixings secure the bedroom to the ceiling to brace it in position. For Bob, keeping the historic hall centre stage in this build has always been a priority. He's even incorporating original features from the hall into the new extensions. These cathedral windows will form the framework for shelves to hold and display bottles as part of a striking wine cellar. This house will be the ultimate in complementing the old with the new.
This pool will be solar heated. There'll be a waterfall set up in that corner, which will just independently flow down over the rocks into the pool.
Bob wants water to be a major feature in the house, so he's also commissioned a waterfall for the upstairs lounge. It's being made out of special glass off-site by Lisa de Boer at her studio on the Gold Coast south of Brisbane. Lisa's been making art installations out of glass for 27 years.
It's such a durable product, like it can go outside. I can do art on outside walls and on the outsides of buildings, and I know it's going to look like that forever.
Lisa will melt a large sheet of glass into a sand mould in this kiln to give the waterfall an unusual finish.
The first stage is to screed the sand, so it has to be perfectly level. I don't want any undulations or anything that can change the form of the glass, because whatever this is, the beginning is how it's going to end up. The next stage is to start pressing the rocks in.
Lisa's made these rock effect rollers to create imprints in the sand. They will help carry the rock theme from the walls into the waterfall.
This car mat I actually saw on the side of the road and thought, wow, that'd make such a cool rock mould. So when it's pressed in, it's going to make a dent in the sand, which creates that whole rock texture. So I'm just sort of putting it little bits and pieces here and there, not too evenly spaced, because I want it to look a little bit arty-farty. Cool. Now the soccer ball. These textures with the soccer ball I'm making now is where I'm going to add little bits of silver leaf to the piece. So see how they just give it a little bit of a variance going down? Just get my little trusty feather. I think that's it. Ta-da! That'll look cool. Everything that's in there at the moment, the glass will form around it, so it will melt. It gets to liquid toffee at 800, and it just starts melting down into that design.
They carefully position the glass sheet in the kiln on top of the layer of textured sand.
Okay, boys, you ready? That's the top of the glass there. So, yeah, it will sit, say, 80 mil from the bottom. Yeah. So, yeah, come this way a little bit more. Yep. Yep. Yes, there. Beautiful.
Lisa then slowly heats the kiln to 800 degrees Celsius.
We'll put it on and ready to go. This is now on for the next 2 to 3 days. And because the weather's so hot, it takes a bit longer to cool down, and you've got to cool it naturally because otherwise the glass will crack.
Two weeks later, and the glass waterfall is ready to install.
The main feature of today is the direction of the interior waterfall. It's a combination of a big aluminium tray and a slump glass piece that's over 3 metres long and nearly 1 metre wide. I haven't seen the finished product, so it's going to be interesting.
The glass will sit inside a tray to contain the water and stop it spilling out onto the hall floor. Lisa is on site with her team to help secure the piece into position.
Wow, very nice.
Few silver leaf highlights, so when you light it up from the front, they'll all be a little bit sparkly.
They will, I'll pick it up. Yeah, great.
The glass panel has been toughened to make it as strong as a car windscreen. Even so, they must handle this 3-metre monster extremely carefully.
Because this is toughened glass now, it becomes 5 times stronger than normal glass. As long as they don't drop it on its edge like that or hit it on its edge and then it will explode. Sorry, no pressure. That's good. The boys are just putting a big bead of silicone in, and it's all anti-fungal silicone so it doesn't go mouldy.
It's going to look fantastic. Can't wait to get the lights on it.
Yeah.
Capture the water coming down, and I think it's going to be a perfect blend with the rocks.
I like it.
Once finished, the waterfall will be a striking feature in the lounge. It's now just over 2 years since Bob embarked on what he planned would be a 2-year build to renovate his historic hall. Site manager Tim and his team are pushing ahead to make up time. But Bob is changing the plans to make the old hall even larger, which is slowing them down.
Through the back, we've got a living room that's getting extended out, which is an add-on. We've decided to do that late, just to give us some more living space upstairs. And we've also got another deck going out to the side of it, which I think is going to house an outdoor fireplace. Probably 8 weeks in the making of this part of it. There's a lot of engineering goes into something like this.
Bob's original plan was to remove the stage in the old hall and build a lounge in its place. But this wouldn't have been big enough for the whole family. So Bob has decided to extend the lounge with an extension and a 20 square metre steel and timber deck. This will give him plenty of space and panoramic city views to boot. Keen to get the build back on track, Bob, who has now recovered from his broken leg, is on site to lend a hand.
Hang on, I want to go a little bit higher, Bob.
520 from the inside of the beam. That brings it about 25 mil out from the stone wall.
Yep. And that governs everything coming this way.
Exactly.
Perfect. They sit on top. Yep. And our floor joists sit in between, 20 mil below, so our decking runs same as the outside deck, runs into the sides of the steel.
Hi. The
Look
boss,
out, yeah.
please.
My second conscience.
Come up and show me the glass.
Bob's daughter Lucy.
Oh, it's looking so good. All right, show me the plans.
So,
is also on site today to help him select the coloured panes of glass that will sit in the rear wall. The glasswork will create a stunning feature that pays tribute to the heritage of the hall.
Okay, so blue, blue, yellow, yellow, purple.
Yep. And then white around there.
Yeah.
That clear glass just gives us a nice, good, clear view of the western part of the city and Mount Cootha. You know?
Which is so much nicer. I'd much prefer mountain view than looking at all the
Exactly,
buildings.
yeah.
Oh, it's like a puzzle.
It is indeed, it is indeed.
It takes Tim and the team several weeks to erect the steel framework for the extended lounge deck and terrace, which will both have great views of the city.
You go. Pretty good.
Pretty good.
Pretty much better than that. So good to get all that up today. I'm thinking something's always going to go wrong with this, but everything went up today perfect for a change.
With the framework for the rear window now complete, the glaziers can begin to install the glass.
These custom jobs, every cut has to be millimetre perfect, and yeah, it's just trial and error. See how we go.
A lot of dust.
110-year-old dust.
Bob has commissioned 20 bespoke windows to adorn both the outside and the inside walls. One will create a feature in the walls of his wine cellar.
We've got all these extra cables in that Bob ordered here. So there's a feature light in this front one here and a feature in there which will turn on. And then all the others will turn on 2 separate switches. So there's like wine bottles and grapes and stuff in the 2 feature ones. Yeah. And then the other ones are just coloured glass.
Another window, made from stained glass, features the hall as it looked when originally built in 1912.
Oh, this looks nice.
Good, doesn't it? Yeah, boys did a good job of that.
Yeah. The white really brings it out.
Doesn't it? Yeah, I reckon so too.
Oh, that's really cute.
No? Back to front. Unless you put the screws in the wrong side. Even fits. How about that? So this is actually what it was supposed to look like back in the day? Yeah, right. Beautiful.
It's now 33 months since Bob embarked on his ambitious scheme to move, extend and transform the historic Salvation Army Hall. Even though it's taken nearly a year longer than planned, all the hard work is finally paying off. Outside, the pavilions now connect to the main hall, and the planted rock gardens are taking shape. Inside, the new hand-built kitchen is being delivered. A large island will take centre stage.
Still on the island bench, floating island bench, so it's open all the way through. And then we've got all the joinery to fit inside of it.
For Bob, it's all about creating a magnificent kitchen for his whole family to enjoy.
So this should be able to get lifted up.
And they want a minimum of 350.
Bob's daughter Lucy and his son Jack have come to check on progress.
I love these. Such a good job, honestly.
Yeah.
It's the first time they've seen the inside coming to life.
You remember I said to you I'm going to do steel on the benches?
Oh, steel. Okay,
Like
yep.
yeah, so
and then it's coming out as a breakfast bar?
yeah, that's the steel that I'm going to be buffing and then putting a clear coat on it. Looks like a burnished black.
That will look so
Yeah.
good.
Then the fish tank will sit central.
And is the fish tank in the kitchen for easy seafood access? Or?
Bob is keeping little reminders of the building's past wherever he can.
That's all the painting that was on the stage. So that'll just be cleaned up and then put a clear coat over it.
Yeah, no, I really like that.
Connection between the new and the old, you know.
And he is extremely proud of what will be the wine cellar.
Do you think it's big enough?
I think so.
Bob's new home is finally emerging out of the old hall. At every stage, he's making bold decisions and commissioning bespoke designs. 2 months later, Bob's back on site, and it's a big day for him, his builder Tim, and the team.
So I've made note to really get in these cracks and seal them already.
In the wine cellar, the team has laid the base of the floor. It's made from basalt stones, which are hard-wearing, but need to be sealed.
And that's all block, and then it's also sitting on a block about that big.
Okay.
Jacob and the team now need to pour a translucent epoxy resin over the stonework. This will set smooth and solid on top and look like glass.
We're installing a 40mm thick glass floor over the stone with a 1mm clear over the top. Casting resin we need for the body.
Yeah, right.
To level out, go glass, and then we've got that final coat just to seal it all off.
So I think we've got roughly around 200 litres to put in.
To go in.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. What's that worth?
About $10,000 sitting out there.
In those drums. Happy days.
It's a time-consuming process. The liquid has to be handled with care and mistakes will be costly.
So that bubble isn't an issue.
The mixture is made up of 2 parts of resin and 1 part catalyst, which speeds up the drying process.
This is super slow mixing. You cannot aerate it.
Mixing too quickly will cause the resin to heat up and create bubbles, so they need to get it just right.
$10,000 worth of product going on the floor.
What is it? Pour in the next layer.
I just think to try and push it in these corners.
Go in.
It's a delicate process. They need to pour the resin slowly and evenly to fill all the gaps and set level.
What is it? Pour in the next layer.
It also calls for fancy footwork, moving out of the room as they go to avoid putting their feet in it.
It's just going to level out, yeah.
1 30-litre bucket down, another 9 to go. Outside, Tim and the team are fitting metal awnings, custom-made at Bob's workshop, over the top of the windows to provide shade. Some of the largest will sit over the lounge windows.
We did those measurements together at the time, so I wonder what's different about it. What's changed?
But there's a problem.
Might have missed a measurement somewhere.
Even for the most experienced fabricators like Bob, mistakes can happen. He's not taken into account the additional 50 millimetres needed on each side to cover the mounts.
It's hard when you're doing one-off items to get them right. Like, this job has one-off items everywhere.
After some head scratching, they devise a solution.
We've got a batten along there and a batten along there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. It evolves as you run it through your head and look at a problem. Quite often you can evolve a new way of doing it.
Once you get onto the red roofing iron, it's all right.
They'll remove the mounts and attach the awnings directly to the metal frame of the building, hanging them slightly higher than originally planned.
We've got plenty of room to drill through that flat bit of steel. I'll just drill through that straight through with and then get those put batten screws into that. Just grab that ladder in the middle there.
You got half of the bottom lug in.
You got that there for a second. I just got to move over to.
So is that what you had in mind?
Yep. Hold yours there, Neil. And then we just do a little Heidi trim all the way around it.
Yeah.
Go and tell him he's not that intelligent. That does look really good. And I do like the height of it anyway, to be honest.
Oh, the height's better.
Inside, aquarium expert Brendan is making Bob's first house guests feel at home.
These are babies.
African cichlids. Plenty of room in here for them.
Bob's commissioned this 900-litre fish tank as the focal feature in the entry hall.
All right, guys. Time to go into your new home.
Had fish tanks when I was a kid, but that's 40, 50 years ago.
I'd say they're going to be a little bit funny for a few hours, but I think
Get
by
acclimatised.
tomorrow,
Yeah.
they'll all be swimming around all nice and happy. They're the new residents in the house and the first residents in the house, so he's pretty happy about that.
Well, yeah, lift this out or just...
I think we'll lift that middle one out now, yeah.
Outside, around the garden...
So we're just putting these blocks under here, Bob, because that'll give us the exact height of...
How hot we want to be.
Height we want to be off the post.
Off the base plate.
Tim and his team are erecting Bob's custom-built fence.
Let's go.
The design of this fence was based on a natural, raw feel about the stone.
The fence is fabricated from weathering steel. Its rich orange tones blend with the stonework.
Okay.
All right, mate. Go grab that.
The steel appears rusty as it has an oxidized coating that actually protects it from erosion.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah.
There may be no need to paint, and it looks better with age, but it's tricky to assemble.
We're working with steel, so it's so hard to get it plumb and straight, but I think we've excelled this morning.
Bob's love for metalwork follows through to the inside too.
This is a finished bench.
Yeah,
That's how it's going to look, but a little bit shinier.
This 24-kilogram sheet of steel will top the kitchen island.
So you're in around a bit there, Jared.
That's it.
It does look spectacular,
Can
mate.
you imagine when it gets a little bit glossier?
I had my doubts. Like, oh, is it going to look good? But so you can make one for me now.
Yeah, all right.
At home.
2 months later, Bob's restoration of this 110-year-old Salvation Army Hall into his dream 4-bedroom luxury home is almost complete. It's taken a year longer than Bob intended and has cost more than he budgeted for. But the result is spectacular. The historic hall now forms the heart of Bob's incredible new futuristic-looking dream home. It houses the main living space, including the kitchen, lounge, and master bedroom. 2 large pavilions containing leisure space and additional bedrooms sit attached to the front and back to treble the building's footprint. A sweeping first floor front deck maximizes the spectacular city views. Outside, Bob's recycled many of the hall's original windows and timbers. On the roof, solar panels create a clean supply of energy. A lush garden is establishing itself around the home. The range of materials and colours, from white-painted timbers to warm basalt stonework, give the interlocking buildings a striking look. Inside the hall, the vast feature windows flood the open-plan layout with warm, natural light.
I've not regretted anything. I think with the way I did it, it was done in a more dragged-out fashion, but that was the way the design went. It's certainly been worth it. I've learnt a lot along the way. It's been a really evolutionary thing to do because a lot of it's been designed as we went. As I lost my wife before I started the project, I thought I'd better definitely go ahead and do it.
I think you've also learnt that you probably don't want to do another one for a little while, right?
Yes, let's just say that I like to just sit and enjoy for a while.
By extending the footprint of the build, Bob's added contemporary elements, but his focus has always been to keep the old hall centre stage.
We've always liked older things, and renovating something with a bit of spirit and a bit of vintage to it, that's just the way we've always been.
And there was easy ways to do things, but I think you like to stay true to buildings as well. You still want things to look and feel original, not like you've just taken something old and put something new inside.
Everything in it has been, if it had to be replaced, it got replaced with the identical piece of equipment. So all the windows have been made to match what was there before. There was no stained glass, but there was a little bit of opaque decorative glass. All those front arch windows, and they've all been reproduced exactly how it was before. So I've kept this building true to its design.
When the guys from the Salvos came to check it out after you did stuff to it, they still had that connection to it. It looked different, obviously, but it still felt the same.
There used to be a stage here that they used to use it for performances. We actually shifted all the timber from that and we put it into one of the ceilings downstairs, the painted ceiling that was previously their painted wall for their stage. So we've tried to use all the elements.
Upstairs is Bob's unusual design masterpiece, the floating bedroom.
Some people might look at it and think, you know, there is some very quirky, eccentric elements, but again, that's our family. We've never been normal. We've never been beige. Our decisions are never tailored to, now what would everyone else do, or what's the most popular thing to do right now. So I think this house speaks to that.
Yeah, there are some quirky things, but...
You're a quirky guy, you are.
Bob removed the rear wall of the hall to open up the building so it could take in the magnificent Brisbane skyline. But he kept a link to the past by commissioning a stained glass window of the hall.
That glass is so worth it, isn't it?
It's so good.
The way it was come up.
Yeah.
The choices that we made. Lie in bed here.
That's what I was going to say. Laying in bed, waking up to this.
Yeah.
When can I move in?
Exactly.
The stained glass helps make this a colourful house.
I love the stained glass.
Yes.
That's my favourite part of this place.
Whilst we kept the front of the building to its original form, we've added a little bit of, well, you couldn't say it's modern, but it's called crazy glass or something. I forget now what it is. But
Oh yeah, there's a name for it.
yes, there is, yeah. This was the last part that they did. And I remember it was called graffiti glass.
Yes,
That's
graffiti
right.
glass.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just such a mix. It's an eclectic mix of stuff.
Exactly.
Along with glass, metal and stone, water plays a big part in Bob's design features. From the 900-litre fish tank to the custom moulded glass waterfall. But Bob's pride and joy is his wine cellar.
Ah, this I love.
I told you I got those ideas from Greece. Mykonos, I think it was.
This recycled stained glass window frame doubles up as a wine cabinet, and the basalt stone floor with glass-like epoxy resin is a triumph. Bob's been determined to have bespoke and innovative design throughout the house, but this has come at a price.
I asked throughout the entire build. I said, do you know how much you've spent? About 4 times I asked.
Yes. Renovation is always going to be more expensive than a new build. It's up around the $2.5 million mark. The fact that we went so far over the budget, I've never ever thought that it wasn't worth it. I've always felt that it deserved it.
For Bob, this was always a passion project, to respect and retain the history and integrity of the old Salvation Army Hall.
In every way, we've achieved this special home, I suppose. It's got all the old elements that we wanted to keep, and then it's got the attachment of the new elements with the pavilions. It's a real blend of ideas and design, and yet still keeps it true to the age of the building. So it's been a very satisfying process. I often think about if it had been done any differently if Robin had been around.
The only difference would have been, I think maybe the process would have been done a bit quicker. I think she would have loved this house, absolutely loved it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that she'd give it the tick.
Irrespective of the time it's taken, Bob has built a completely unique home where he, his children and grandchildren can create future memories.
It was worth it 110%. Yeah, loved every minute of it.